Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Guns and Boom Challenger Series, Cup number 7. Well, pardon me, Cup number 6 here for, of course, the Southeast Asia region. I'm not going to be the only one doing the talking here. I do have my partner in crime. It's going to be Beneficus. And Beneficus, I haven't seen you in some time now, so how are you holding up,
Well,
buddy?
first of all, hello everyone on this beautiful Saturday, and must I say, I'm actually doing quite well now. I've been quite busy, so a lot of jobs to do and a lot of casting to do as well, and also some other disciplines. So this is definitely going to be a fresh experience for myself as well, and pretty excited to see with with the addition of the new region, of course, what we're going to see today here, because obviously there's a lot of promising action on our way.
Yeah, that's one of the things we could definitely stress in this broadcast, that this will be one of the first times we get to see these teams being played out here live here at our broadcast. And of course, it's been no secret that, in the Guns of Boom here, we do have our colleagues at ESL who do cover, the European region, the North American region. Those are fine regions, but now you finally get to take a closer look at Southeast Asia.
Exactly, and I think we've spoke about this before as well, slightly behind the scenes of how different this region could potentially be from others, and as well what new things could they bring to the table here, because you usually tend to see in many different games that certain regions have certain tendencies, and I'm curious to see if this is going to be the case here today as well.
And that's the thing, this is also a great learning tool for some of the teams, outside Southeast Asia. They can see that, if you're a team like from Europe, you're wondering, how are the best teams playing here in this regions? What we can learn from their expertise? And I mean, this is a great way to do it. We have our broadcast here. We're going to be running it here today. And you can see that, so this is the play style this team likes to play on. This is the stuff we can learn, and actually maybe, meeting them and say, I don't know, the Pro Series finals in Brazil, we can definitely use that tactics against them.
Yeah, especially, of course, how super curious to see how these teams will play out from the very beginning. I mean, some teams do tend to reveal all of their secrets and all of their cards straight away. Some teams do tend to give them the opportunity to just fly by their opponents and say, perhaps, save the heavier stuff for the more challenging ones.
Sure,
And
sure.
obviously, that's also a key aspect for me personally, just to see and to be able to enjoy the gameplay completely. But before that, and before more details, let's have a look at the standings and quickly remind you guys where everyone is standing currently right now.
Yeah, I do believe, no surprise here, Damage Gaming here sitting at the #1 place. You might be wondering, what on earth are these guys? Well, they're, of course, too easy for All-Stars. They've been acquired by a proper organization here. Of course, they're going to be representing Damage Gaming, and look at them sitting at the #1 place, 475 points. That's a lot.
Yeah, so they're 125 points above Indian Wolves. Now, Indian Wolves have also been a very strong team throughout this Spring Challenger series here. Unfortunately, they haven't had the best of luck in a few of their matches, hence why they are still in the second position here. And right underneath, though, are also Unkilled. Now, Unkilled are known for their very fast gameplay at the beginning of the match, and they also do tend to keep to their structure. So hopefully those guys will be able to show us some good stuff here today.
And we definitely saw them, from them good stuff last week, because they actually made their way to the grand final of all places. They, of course, had to face Too Easy for All Stars, or Damage Gaming as they're known now. And, we can't really say that that was the most convincing of victories for Damage Gaming. Unkilled definitely showed us some great promise, and who knows, maybe we'll see them action coming in here this week as well.
And right underneath, you will find in the fourth and fifth position that is going to be Prestigious. And oh my god, it's J007. Quick word about Prestigious. Last week, they were battling it out for the third and fourth position. And unfortunately, not really entirely sure about the reasoning behind it, but they did have to forfeit their match. So Indian Wolves did manage to secure in that last cup. That was cup number 5, that third position. Thankfully for the fact that Prestigious were unable to attend.
Yeah, we don't really know, the reasonings behind why a team decided not to go for it, but surely, it definitely makes a lot of sense to be fighting, for the third and fourth place deciders, because not only are you going to be getting some of that bonus points, but you also get money to work with. So that's obviously a very nice bonus.
Yeah, exactly. So probably the guys decided that we're fine with the monies that we get from the fourth place, and they'll continue on without battling it out last week. But let's have a look at the brackets and see which are the pairs that we're going to see there today, ladies and gentlemen. gentlemen, on our screens right now. In the first round, we're going to have Damage Gaming, and they're actually still waiting to receive their opponent as the games are still being played out. So we'll put that on a pause there. But Danny, let me know, what can we say about Unkilled versus Indian Wolves?
This is a good one, Beneficus, because this is, of course, the rematch we had last week, at Cup number 5. We obviously saw the semifinal played out against Unkilled versus Indian Wolves, and we obviously saw the Unkilled roster coming out on top. I think it was a 2-0 victory, so this should be a very nice matchup here between the two teams, indeed.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Indian Wolves will want some sort of retaliation about last week, because obviously losing in a 2-0 fashion when they're actually sitting a position above in the standings, that's not really something that you're going to be happy with as a team, and obviously they are going to be the first pair that we're going to look at. We will quickly remind you guys that these matches currently are going to be played in a best-of-3 format, and the matches for the finals and the third and fourth position are actually going to be a best-of-5. So in this best-of-3, first one, Unkilled versus Indian Wolves, we're going to see a few interesting maps here, starting off with Paradise Island, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and we could actually even talk about real quick about the previous matchup that we had, last week. It was obviously Paradise Island. If I do recall correctly, that wasn't the most decisive victories for Unkilled. It was pretty back and forth. And at the very end, we actually saw the Unkilled roster coming out on top. But obviously, that wasn't an easy victory.
It was definitely a clutch victory, because there were about 3-4 times during that 5-minute match that you could see it's pretty undecisive which team is going to come out on top. And a lot of things did come down to either the teams being able to flank or to be able to battle it out towards that capture point. So I do hear a few words from our production that we do have an update in the bracket. So quickly, let's jump back into that one and see who is going to be in the first pair. So Damage Gaming is going to go against Prestigious. No real surprise here in terms of the team that did make it to these semi-final brackets. That is Prestigious. Hopefully they will not forfeit any matches here today, because obviously they just had a very lengthy battle throughout the brackets just to make it here. So that first pair is going to be Damage Gaming going against Prestigious. Now for Prestigious, I would be slightly nervous, to be honest, because too easy for All-Stars, now known as Damage Gaming. They definitely are a very dominant force here, and there is definitely a reason also as to why they were picked up by an organization.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, this is pretty much the exact bracket setup we had earlier. We had on, week number 5. We also saw, in the very first semifinal, it was Too Easy for All-Stars playing against Prestigious. The second one was also Unkilled versus Indian Wolves. So this is pretty much a replay of last week.
Yeah, so question is, what will change and how will things play out here? And I'm super excited to probably jump into the maps as soon as possible. We're just waiting for the players to join the server. But until then, what do you think? Are we going to see any upsets here today or no? Because last week, in the match between now known Damaged Gaming against Prestigious actually played a very good first map.
Yeah, they actually showed up very nicely there on the Paradise Island map. King of the Hill, it was pretty close affair, as you're obviously expecting from a map like that. Then I must admit, as close as it might have been, it honestly could have gone either way. Surely we saw, the Damage Gaming side coming out on top. Congrats with the victory, but obviously a team like Prestigious showed up very well in that matchup.
Well, Damage Gaming tend to come out on top in maps that are more reliant on eliminations. Of course, that is also that team deathmatch mode, first of all, because they do tend to start off aggressively, then afterwards they just fall back, regroup, and then they make sure that they get sort of a second wave, a second lead above the other team, and then afterwards they just play passively, because there's no really reason to overextend here. So for Prestigious Gaming, they need to find out how can they overcome that initial aggression, and afterwards, if they lose that initial aggression, how can they come back into these matches? And for a lot of the teams, considering how small of a time frame you actually have to make those crucial decisions, I think it's super important that the teams can communicate well throughout the match, and hopefully they also talk in between matches as to what can they do better in the next map and what should they be aware of.
Oh, for sure. Communication is a very important thing here at Guns of Boom, especially, if you're playing, like, say, the control points map.
Yeah.
A lot of them, like, let's say, for example, Farm Complex is a pretty good one, is how you're able to have a lot of good flanking routes. Now, flanking routes are quite important in a map like control points, but it can also be quite useful even in King of the Hill. You might see your opponents have put up themselves some very good positions, say, Paradise Island, they're sitting there in the huts. If you have a player coming in with a flank, it could actually do some serious damage and maybe get some crucial eliminations with his flank.
And also a huge factor always for those of you who are perhaps still learning the game, whenever you are flanking and you do manage to inflict some damage to the opponent or perhaps even get an elimination or two, make sure you don't stick around that position and make sure that you leave as soon as possible, because obviously the information about your position is going to be passed on to their teammates, and they'll be very keen to take care of you and to quickly get you out of those positions. And of course, for the snipers in the teams, that's also super something that they need to be very aware. That is, you constantly need to be reminding yourself the fact that you could be flanked, and being scoped in with a sniper rifle, that's a huge threat for you. You can even get the Blade Master in the back there if you're not too keen and don't pay attention to the sounds around you.
Yeah, you have to be very careful of your surroundings. Of course, if you're someone who owns, the sniper rifle, you're looking at for those long-range distant engagements, you have to be very cautious of your surroundings. If you're not aware of maybe possible flank coming in, or you're not listening to the communication or the information your team is giving to you, well, that could lead to a very easy elimination.
And slightly about a different theme, though. So these teams, of course, are battling out for some sort of grand prize here.
Of course, the teams here. You always want to try to secure the #1 slot here at the Southeast Asia region, and for good measure, if you are able to acquire that, you will get yourself a spot in the Pro Series finals in Brazil. Is that going to be happening, I do believe, on June 8th. So there's still time, for these teams to still battle it out for the #1 seed. But we must admit, a team like Damage Gaming, they're looking very hot.
Yeah, Damage Gaming, I really don't see right now how someone could overthrow them, but there's always that element of surprise. Last week's matches, we did have a quick glance at them, but slightly more about that afterwards. Let's jump into Paradise Island. This is going to be a King of the Hill scenario here between the Unkilled team versus Indian Wolves. So super stoked to see how this is going to head out. This is going to be basically a rematch of last week here, and there's already the point being captured from the Unkilled boys here. In the meantime, Indian Wolves, I do think this is going to be a restart here. Someone crashed on the Indian Wolves side, so slightly got overexcited there, but the players will quickly jump back into the server. Probably just some connectivity issues, as still, of course, it is a mobile game and relies on some data.
Yeah, we definitely have some technical issues here, but don't worry, folks. Our wonderful team of admins will get the fix here as soon as possible. But I guess it's a good opportunity as any to actually, touch on a map like Paradise Island here. It is, after all, King of the Hill, and from what we can tell, from what we've seen at the matches here, this is one of the fewer maps that actually allows for the sniper rifle players to actually find some very useful eliminations.
Well, in the place of Indian Wolves, I actually would be very vary of the Unkilled players, because Skilled, playing in the team of Unkilled, last week was the top fragger, so to say. He had the most eliminations, 86 if I'm not mistaken. Yep, so he racked during the Cup number 5, 86 eliminations and almost, or even 1,600 points. So that's quite a lot of points to obtain for your team, and obviously now heading into this match fresh, they're going to be super worried about the fact that there's a player like that standing against you. And only the closest Indian Wolves player, looking at last week's eliminations counts and points obtained, is sitting only around eighth, ninth position, somewhere around that. So there's a huge gap between these players, and the question is, has this sort of say elimination streak transferred onto this week for the Unkilled side, or is this going to be a different scenario for them? So obviously we're going to find out shortly that once the players have jumped back into the server here. But as always, something that I would like to see quite a lot is explosives. I love the explosives in this game.
They are sure lovely to witness, and of course, they're quite useful, especially if you do see a clump of players coming into your position. If you pull out the G launcher, you do have the, high explosive grenade to work with, you can deal some serious damage, especially if they're sticking together. Of course, you can actually say you're in a one-on-one scenario in which you know that you're losing the fight. If you still pull out the grenade, you might actually still get the elimination. It looks like we do have our fix here, and it's going to be Paradise Island, King of the Hill, of course, and we're going to be able to see our very first semi-final of the day.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's jump into this. The butterfly there in the middle of the site is probably not going to survive for long here, as these teams are making their way towards the capture point here. You can actually see Gunrag positioning himself on the left-hand side there. In the meantime, Ghost is going to be shedding the first action here, and he's actually going to go down to Skilled, the man we mentioned before. So Skilled is the man who makes the first strike here, but the point is going to be captured by Indian Wolves, and oh my god, those points are starting to tick away very fast in favor of them. And they're looking to actually push Unkilled back into their own base here. So trades are going backwards and forwards. Ghost comes out with a double elimination, and Rice even gets a Blade Master together with Ghost on top of that. So those are extra points very easily obtained, and already a 120-point lead for Indian Wolves.
That is so decisive right now from Indian Wolves. You haven't been able to take the control point, but you do see the Unkilled roster coming in. You see Rice here, a bit of a challenge here against Hulk, but right now, the point is being contested yet again here by Gunrag, but it's going to be, again, Indian Wolves coming out on top, and this is looking very solid here for the team.
And they do manage to recapture that point, still securing their lead. Already 180 points now, as Hulk is going to be on the flank here, does manage to get a double elimination for himself, is quickly making his way towards the capture point, as in the meantime, Moriarty there did manage to take care of Ghost, and Hulk also took down Ravi Reddy. So essentially they did manage to reset Indian Wolves here, but still they're 200 points essentially in front. So 3 minutes and 30 seconds here, still plenty of chances for Unkilled, but they need to get a clean wipe onto Indian Wolves if they do want to change the tides of the game here.
Yeah, that's the question, if that's even going to be possible, but there was some good eliminations here, and even a double elimination here from Ravi. And that's the thing right now, Indian Wolves, they also have some great map control to work with, and some of the Unkilled roster are having a very difficult time dealing with. Look at how Ravi pushes so aggressively here. Now we do see Skill, though he does, look at this, 2 players coming in. That's going to be a very good elimination here from Indian Wolves, and look at this, the point difference, it is pretty massive.
Yeah, Indian Wolves are not leaving any breathing space for Unkilled, so essentially Unkilled cannot make it through these pathways, and Rice now even survives with the Slither of Health, gets a follow-up elimination there as well, triple elimination for him, as Hulk finally does take him down. But Rice has done such an excellent job for his team, sitting at 152 points of his own. In the meantime, on the side of Unkilled, only Skilled and Hulk have really put up above 100 points. So the rest of their team really need to shake things up for themselves, as Ghost finds yet another Blade Master, but Skilled returns the favor there. Just Blade Masters going left and right.
Now, of course, that's how we like to see them in a one-on-one engagement. Now we do see, Ravi here with the sniper rifle. Looks like they're going to be going for a bit of a flanking route here. Ghost here up close with the Avalanche, but he won't be able to find a single elimination just yet. A Blade Master there from Hope. And now we are seeing the control point going back in favor here from Indian Wolves. But look at his Skilled. He's there with the flank, but somehow the G-Launcher doesn't land, and he's going to be going down. So this is now just 150 more points there for Indian Wolves, and they will secure the victory.
Yeah, right now it starts to look like a done deal for Indian Wolves, and oh my god, they definitely have rethought things after their last match last week here, where in the first map Unkilled were the ones that actually came out on top here. So for Indian Wolves, just a few more points, just a few more seconds before they do manage to finally close out this first match here, and they have definitely opened things up on a completely different vibe than we saw last week here. So the first match is going to go in favor of Indian Wolves, and ladies and gentlemen, I must say I'm super surprised about, first of all, the way how Indian Wolves approached this match, as well as how quickly they did manage to establish the lead, and already from the first minute, basically, they just didn't allow for Unkilled players to get through those pathways, or at least to get through them unscathed or unscavenged.
And I mean, that was just so decisive there from the Indian Wolves roster. From the early get-go, they're able to secure themselves the control point, and they pretty much didn't let go for it other than, in the mid portions. Then we actually saw the Unkilled roster coming into the matchup, but I think it was a bit too late. Indian Wolves, once they had the metal on the pedal, they just didn't let go. Yeah,
Rice with that triple elimination there as well. Escaped with the Slither of Health. Unfortunately, Hulk was there to quickly put an end to him. But I mean, the man did so much in terms of points in favor of his team, and I wouldn't be surprised that he would turn up as an MVP for his team in this first match as well. But before that, though, actually, yeah, let's have a look at the MVPs. Let's see who was the man on top. So, as I already said, I do think for Indian Wolves it is going to be Rice. Yep, there he is. 214 points, 13 eliminations, and 5 assists. Now, that's a hefty weight to be lifted off the shoulders of Indian Wolves there.
Yeah, and obviously, a guy like Unkilled's skill, 163 score, 8 eliminations. Honestly, he did have a great last week, of course, but this time around, he definitely had a bit of a more trickier time, I must admit.
I think Indian Wolves definitely, as we spoke in the very beginning, just have a point to prove to Unkilled and just make sure that they remind them of the standings, and that's the reason why Indian Wolves are still in that second position and Unkilled sitting at third. So for Unkilled, they definitely need to quickly talk things over. Perhaps it's slightly nerves that we're playing there as well. You cannot really say. But a super convincing win coming out from Indian Wolves in the first map here. And obviously the second one being Old Factory, a team deathmatch mode. Now, do you think, does it favor Unkilled players more? Or Indian Wolves are just going to come out with that same organization, the same effect of the pack of the Wolves, so to say, where they just spread out, make sure that nobody can make through them, past them, that is, and obviously just keep the pressure up until the very end.
That's the thing. If we actually recall to our last week, we saw the Unkilled roster. They themselves had a decisive victory on Old Factory. I think I even recall a couple of times when we actually saw some great G-Launcher eliminations coming in, but primarily, this being a team deathmatch game mode, and if we actually compare the Unkilled roster's performance to last week, I don't know, this could actually still be a pretty close affair here, but obviously, Indian Wolves, they come out the gate screaming, and that was a great performance from them on the first map, and here on Old Factory, it is still quite hard to say which team is going to be able to come out on top.
Well, in Cup number 5, when these two met in Old Factory, it was quite an interesting sight just because they did play more towards the sides of the map here. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be jumping into Old Factory here. Team Deathmatch. Let's see if Indian Wolves can keep the pressure up or Unkilled have a few things to say about that first loss that they experienced here. So we are going to be jumping into the match now. You can see the players are spreading out on through the map. Skilled actually very quickly makes his way towards the right-hand side with the help of his teammate. Does put a few explosives down there, and he actually has a good chance to flank there, but Moriarty is going to be the man who makes the first strike and does take care of Ravi Reddy. So a few trades going backwards and forwards here. And actually now Indian Wolves are going to be overtaking the point lead as Rice and Ghost both do get some eliminations their way.
We saw Indian Wolves scatter some very early map control there. They actually even decided to go towards the middle, and I do believe one of the players, Ghost, made his way all the way to the spawn here. Now we are seeing Unkilled make a push up their own. That's a good double elimination here from Hulk. Has some great eliminations being found, and look at this, Unkilled. They know they have the advantage, and now they're going to be playing this one a bit safer.
Yeah, they do start to group up more just to make sure that they can trade more effectively. Hulk is going to be running around this corner here, looking to see if he can spot Ravi Reddy, but he's actually going to be taking him down in return. Does manage to get the triple elimination there as well. But Gunrag comes in with a double of his own there. Now, it's super important as well that these players do rack up those eliminations in sequence, so they do get those double, triple eliminations just to make sure they get those valuable extra points here. More explosives put on the ground towards the middle part of the map. In the meantime, Ravi coming out with the Blade Master does find Hulk. The G-Launcher somehow does not connect there, and he's actually going to go to Gunrag here. So Gunrag needs to make sure he stays alive. He's going to go towards that right-hand side of the map. Will not spot anyone just yet, just making sure that his teammates can also follow up just in case.
Yeah, but this is good right now. If you're Indian Wolves, you want to try to stick this one together. Even though they are sticking together, this is still very close here between the two teams. Only a 10-point difference. As you do still see, Skill coming in here. He's got skill in his name. Does he have skill in his game? He will be retreating right now. He does want to heal up. He doesn't want to go out there one by one. He wants the backup of his own teammates.
And he's just constantly on the rotation here. That's a heavy shot to take towards him, so he will need to fall down. He actually goes in for the assist there and does manage to take care of Rice. So Ghost comes in with two of his own. Again, a double elimination for him as he's going to be taken care of very quickly. Now, this is a point-into-point battle here. 2 minutes and 40 seconds on the clock. Now, the favor, of course, is on the side of Indian Wolves, as they did manage to pick up that first map, and the pressure is on for Unkilled, and you can see they're super active on the map. Skill just never stands steady here, as Ravi does manage to find him just around that corner there, but there are two more players from Unkilled's side here that they need to take care of, otherwise they might lose the point lead here. So still 40 points for Indian Wolves. Definitely a pleasant sight for them right now, but that's definitely also not enough for them to still continue with that pressure.
We are seeing Skill there make the push happen here, but he might have a very good flank here, at least on one of the players. Not too shabby their Skill, but it's still Indian Wolves in a pretty nice lead. I mean, for them, 100 more points and they will secure the victory here. Ghost in the position here in top mid. We didn't really get to see too much map control coming in here on that part of the map. We are seeing Rise here. Looks like he will be overwhelmed by the Blade Master, of course. Now Indian Wolves, like, they still have to make a pretty massive choice here. Do they want to play on aggressive as they're doing right now, or do they want to back away here? Ghost, he's coming in. He's got the G-Launcher, the explosive there, and the Avalanche as well. That's going to be double elimination there for Ghost, and he finds some very good points.
Yeah, unfortunately, he was pushing slightly too far there, so Moriarty did manage to take him down. Still, only roughly 40 points for the side of Indian Wolves before they secure the victory here, and Unkilled, they need to make a break for it right now, and they need to make sure that they don't lose any more players here, and that is going to be it, ladies and gentlemen. Indian Wolves coming out with a very convincing 2-0 victory. Well, I'm saying very convincing. That was only the first map. This second one was in a point-into-point battle. But as we saw from the difference from the last week, this is a completely different story here. So Indian Wolves have definitely thought things over in terms of how their last match went against Unkilled, and have managed to secure their victory and also the position in the finals.
That's the thing. Now the Indian Wolves roster, they're going to have themselves another final here. Not too much surprising, as I presume. I mean, they've been looking very solid here throughout the entirety of the spring season, but still, going up against a team like Unkilled, it still could have gone either way, to be honest, but we obviously saw Indian Wolves coming out on top.
Yeah, I mean, super convincing stuff for me. Definitely looking at from back last week, they just clearly have some sort of game plan into play, and again, that play that came out from Indian Wolves on Paradise Island was just slightly surprising for me, to be honest. I was not expecting for them to be playing Paradise Island in such a controlled fashion, and you very rarely see this, that also the other side really has no opportunities to come back into the match. Essentially, they were just shut down from the first minute and kept there. In this team deathmatch map, obviously, it was a slightly different story. It does rely on eliminations, but before we talk about more about that, let's talk about MVPs of the match.
Now, I wouldn't be too surprised if, say, on the roster of Unkilled, we do have Skilled, of course.
Surprise.
Yeah, surprise, surprise, we do have Skill here. It's a bit of a shame that his team wasn't able to come out on top, but he, again, had a pretty fine performance. We're talking 8 eliminations, 10 assists, and 135 score being racked up.
Yeah, and on Old Factory from Indian Wolves, it looks like Ravi Reddy is the man of the hour for them. So with 164 points of his own, 10 eliminations, and 7 assists. Now, that's a huge investment for your team there, of course, coming up from Ravi Reddy and Teddy, that is. And I do hope that he does manage to show us a decent performance here in the finals as well. But before we move on to the finals, we're actually going to have another pair played out. So let's have a look at the brackets and see who is going to go up head-to-head next. I do think that is Damage Gaming going against Prestigious here. So last week, Prestigious did manage to start off quite strongly against Damage Gaming, previously known as Too Easy for All-Stars, in that first map. The others just didn't really went their way.
Yeah, we remember Damage Gaming as they played against Prestigious on Paradise Island. The Paradise Island, we were hoping to see pretty much a stomp there from Damage Gaming, but that was not the case. Prestigious definitely showed up in that matchup. It was a pretty close affair, and I do remember that the last couple hundred points, it was just Damage Gaming securing the control point and getting themselves the victory.
Yeah, so Damage Gaming are the clear favorites here, but we are definitely not shutting down Prestigious out of the picture yet. And also, if Damage Gaming make it into the finals, so into that battle for the first and second place in this Cup number 6, Indian Wolves have previously won against them, actually. So it's not all only Damage Gaming being in front here. So Indian Wolves also have a decent chance at it. And I must say, looking at today's game, probably the best chance I've seen in a while for them, as long as they can keep up with that pressure from their side. Because, as I already said, Damage Gaming are known for their early aggression. And the question is, how can Prestigious handle that on Paradise Island? And will Prestigious fall into the same path that Unkilled experienced going up ahead against Indian Wolves?
Yeah, that's going to be interesting because if you're a team like Prestigious, you realize we're going to go up against the best team so far in the Southeast Asia region. And I don't think they're going to be having any sort of nerves, so to speak. I think, if anything, they have to go into this game and think, right, guys, we have to play our own style. We have to try and be up, as aggressive as possible at some of these opportunities and try to play it ballsy. That might just be the one thing that could allow you to secure maybe at least one map, and who knows, maybe even the entire series.
Well, I mean, one of the ways how you can make sure that you have a decent chance to get a strong opponent is to make sure that you clearly establish at the very beginning of the match that you are going to be playing by your own tempo. You have your own rules, your own game sense, your own game style that you're bringing to the desk here, and you just need to make sure that the big guys start to feel uncomfortable. And once they start to feel uncomfortable, you never know when was the last time when these guys felt pressured, and if the opponent that is considered to be the favored starts to feel more pressured, he clearly could potentially lose here. So I do think let's have a look at the replays here just to see some highlights that we saw from the match, from that first pair here coming out from Unkilled going up against Indian Wolves. Now, as we already spoke, Indian Wolves were very keen to secure these pathways, and as you can see, there was always a player from their team there just to make sure that no flanks are happening, nobody's making through the actual site. That is the capture point here in the middle, and as you can see, also, as soon as someone from Unkilled approaches, there instantaneously is a player from Indian Wolves, or even two in this scenario, where they just continuously are on the site, making sure that nobody can pass them, or at least pass with a full health still intact remaining here. So I do believe, is this the triple elimination moment? No, this wasn't the one. Robbie was on our screens here there for a moment. I thought it was triple, but that was a bit later into the match here. There we go. Thank you.
But yeah, like the way the team like Indian Wolves were playing, like they were playing this very aggressive style here in Paradise Island. Not only were they able to capture the point as early as the first couple of seconds here, but they also kept on pushing towards the spawn there, which is always a pretty nice thing to be doing, because if you're going to be playing that aggressively, you're going to make sure that the opponents, once they end up spawning into the map, they will have a difficult time.
Yeah, and it also resulted with the fact that Indian Wolves were able to secure a 500-point lead in that first map. That's an impressive feat, and it's also difficult to achieve, and Indian Wolves clearly showed to everyone else as well how you could potentially play Paradise Island in order for you to get early advanced points going in your way, as well as how to keep the pressure up continuously. So essentially, by keeping up the pressure, you just completely eliminate your opponent of having any chances of coming back into that match.
Yeah, and if you take a look here at Old Factory, I can't really say that this was a team effort here, so to speak, from Indian Wolves. Primarily, it has just been the individual engagements, and I must admit, in those, Indian Wolves were able to come out on top pretty much more often than, say, the Unkilled roster. Surely, there were moments where the scoring was pretty close here between the two teams, but in all fairness, it looked like Indian Wolves are going to be able to come out on top.
Well, in Team Deathmatch, a lot of things are going to come down how to those one-on-one engagements go. So it's really hard to understand also sometimes what is that small lever of advantage that one or the other side might have. Perhaps it's a slightly better aim, perhaps just the circumstances fall into place for them in that specific scenario. So hence why you sometimes do see points that, matches where the points are essentially even till the very last seconds, and especially if it's a team deathmatch mode, as I already said, like factors such as how much health, how much armor do you have remaining, do you have any sort of opportunities to heal up, or you actually are forced to take an engagement. All of this comes together in a bigger picture, and of course, as we just saw on our screens, Indian Wolves did come out on top in that second match there. So 2-0 victory for them here, but enough about them. Let's start thinking about that Damage Gaming and Prestigious, and let's see how they can do here on Paradise Island. Middle capture point in place, ready to take on who's going to be the very first who must manage to capture the point.
Let's take a look, shall we? Paradise Island is a lovely little map, and the battle will be starting soon enough here, of course. You're the team here of Damage Gaming. Going to try to secure the point as soon as possible, but we are seeing some early engagements here. I do believe that's Gunnar trying to find some of them, and it's going to be Blaze coming out on top. He's going for the flank here. He's going to try to find more, and that's a clean sweep right now from Damage Gaming as they do secure the point. Or will they? They should be able to secure it. Heisenberg playing around here, and no, they're going for the eliminations. That's odd.
So they actually wanted to get a clean sweep first onto Prestigious before they managed to capture the point, and it's actually going to be a mistake from their side as Mighty and Boxer did manage to respawn in time, did manage to capture that point as well, and they're changing the tides against Damage Gaming here now with the two-man flank coming in. Heisenberg with that triple elimination. What was that?
Oh man, that was some great time. That's what I'm talking about with Because when there's a clump happening like that, the explosives can do some massive work, and we just saw it in action. And it was looking very nice there for Prestigious. Obviously, bonus points coming in as well. And right now, Damage Gaming, they're actually still going to be trying to secure the point here. But yes, Boxer's going to be going down. And there's a bit of a flank there from Tekken. And now we are seeing the control point. It should be, and yes, it will be going in favor here for Damage Gaming. But the question is, for how long?
And Heisenberger here also shows us why he's the leader currently in terms of the overall eliminations gained and points obtained throughout this spring season for himself. So he's definitely a man to watch out for. Oh my god, I just can't get over that triple elimination. It was so juicy. Now Damage Gaming are sitting in front with 100 points for them. Slight battle happening there between Blaze and Taken. Blaze does come out on top, but Chattery returns the favor with the Blade Master there. The explosive goes down onto the ground. Heisenberg gets yet another elimination here. Instantly rotates just to make sure he can pop that heal and make sure he can get back into the site here now. Tekken does manage to find an entry for himself. Mighty is able to follow up, but very quickly, again, Heisenberg and Gunnar stop that push towards the capture point. And that point lead is starting to become ever so bigger for Damage Gaming here. Already 140, excuse me, that's a 160 is that.
Yeah, that's a pretty big point difference here between the two teams. I think Mighty might just secure the control point here, and oh, that was so close, and yet Prestigious, we are seeing Boxer here coming in. He will be going down to Heisenberg's Avalanche. And things are looking up here for Damage Gaming. Again, they do have the control point in their name. It doesn't look like they're going to be stopped anytime soon.
Yeah, 200 points in front above Prestigious here, so they did have a good start. That is Prestigious, but unfortunately they have yet to come back into this one. Now they go for the capture point. They do manage to capture it. Tekken in the meantime tried to push forward or tried to push those Damage Gaming players back towards their spawn. The explosive from Heisenberg might just find a lot of damage, but the players were just around the corner now with the perfect aim. Does manage to take care of Mighty, and in the meantime was already on the capture point. So as he's getting eliminations, he's also capturing the point, which is super valuable for your team here. And it looks like Damage Gaming might just run away with the victory here in the first map, as another minute and 40 seconds on the clock, but only 50 points roughly needed.
Yeah, it's only 50 points right now separating Damage Gaming here to a victorious start here on the very first map. That's the thing, Prestigious, they do still have control here, but the question is for how long, because Gunnar's coming in here. There's still one player right behind the luggages. That's Boxer. That's going to be Blaze with the elimination. And that's the thing. 2 more points and make that a victory here for Damage Gaming, because they do secure Paradise Island, our very first map of the best of 3.
Yeah, and I slightly want to talk about how that match started. So Damage Gaming definitely had a nice idea where they wanted to get a full sweep on the opposing opposite team. So for Prestigious, what helped them was the fact that Chatri, if I'm not mistaken, was the guy who stayed alive long enough. So 2 more players from their side, which went down initially, managed to respawn and came in and picked up those low HP Damage Gaming players. So hence, Prestigious actually made a reverse sweep there in the beginning and didn't manage to capture that point. But man, Heisenberg with that triple elimination just changed things instantaneously back for Damage Gaming, and from that point it was just pressure on from Damage Gaming, and hence why they did come out on top. But as I already said in the beginning of this stream, explosive damage and explosives in general in this game, in my opinion, are super strong as long as you can land them. So, but let's have a look at the MVPs yet again, ladies and gentlemen, and see who's going to be the leader. I wouldn't be surprised to see, yep, Heisenberg up there with 318 points for himself, 13 eliminations and 4 assists. On the other side, actually, Boxer at 229 points, 11 eliminations and 9 assists. So he's not too far off there in terms of elims, and the assist count is definitely a lot higher, but it looks like Heisenberg definitely spent more time on the capture point there.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. And not only that, of course, after he found that triple elimination, that is extra points in his pocket. But we must admit, that was a pretty close affair, somewhat at the beginning, but at the end of it all, it wasn't too difficult for the Damage Gaming side to close it out. I mean, that was still a pretty convincing way to finish the series off, well,
Yeah.
the first map of our series. And of course, we still have our second map coming in. That's going to be Old Factory. And with the performances we had from guys like Heisenberg, Gunnar, man, I'm excited to see how the second map is going to turn out.
I'm in the position of prestigious. I would be slightly worried, to be honest, because that there just showed us that Damage Gaming are not to be messed with. Obviously, they also have a lot to prove to their new organization, because they were previously known as Too Easy for All Stars, and now being picked up by that organization. Of course, the organization would like to see good results, and that's exactly what Damage Gaming are putting up to the table here. So for prestigious, it's even more so pressure on to come up with some sort of a way how could they battle that aggression from Damage Gaming. And I do think that on Old Factory, a lot of the times you see teams just splitting towards the right or left hand side of the map, and not that many teams tend to utilize the middle part. So I think a decent distraction coming out from Prestigious Gaming would be something interesting to see, so then one of their members could perhaps flank the opposing side through the middle there.
And that's the thing. I kind of see why people don't want to be using the mid portion of the map, especially the lower one, because, I mean, it is pretty small.
Yeah.
Like, it is very small room there. Imagine you check in there, it's explosive, and you could deal some serious damage. So I kind of see, why teams end up avoiding, say, going for the lower part there, middle. But, in the previous matchup, if I do recall correctly, we didn't really get to see a lot of engagements on the top part of the mid.
Basically none.
Yeah, basically not. I think maybe in the latter stages we might have seen one or two, and that's about it, really.
It's slightly strange as well, because previously watching these matches, there would usually be at least like a member or two that would just continuously try to get those eliminations from above and try to make sure that he's harder to hit. Just the fact that you have to aim higher, of course, being on a mobile device, that is a huge difference. So not really seeing it here today yet, but perhaps it is going to be a different story with these two, especially the way how Damage Gaming are performing here today. And I must say, Heisenberg is just on fire today.
He is, like, the man had himself a very fantastic game here on the very first map. The question is, can they actually bring it up on the second one? But even if Heisenberg doesn't have a good map, say Old Factory, we have to admit, like, Too Easy for All Stars, they were called that for a very good reason, is because, like, the players here that are participating, Gunnar, for example, like, these are the highest rated players here in the Challenger Series Southeast Asia region. So it's a good reason why, say, if Heisenberg doesn't have a good game, why his other teammates can still step up. So here we are, folks. Old Factory Team Deathmatch. Let's get it on.
Let's get it on indeed, as the first members are going to be making their way towards the sides of the map very shortly here. And everyone is in game. Happy news as always, as Damage Gaming having a one map up. And as you can see, actually, Heisenberg is going to be going up towards that upper side of the map. In the meantime, Blaze opening things up with a double elimination and that first strike in his pocket, giving Damage Gaming already 60 points, only against 24. Gunnar, as the name states, with the gun out, looking to see if he can pop a perfect aim somewhere there.
You see a bit of engagement here. And it doesn't look like Blaze, he's not going to be able to get out of there on top. I mean, there were 3 players there, but Heisenberg, that's a very good explosion coming in. Look at the damage being dealt on these prestigious players. This is a good opportunity for Damage Gaming to actually get some eliminations.
Chatri here might just go down as Gunnar jumps in between these two players, gets a double elimination for himself. Boxer needs to fall back, otherwise these two players will take him down. And Heisenberg is, again, super active around the map, and actually Blaze still currently leading the points for his team here. It's already 116, 130 going up against 75. So for prestigious, they just mustn't allow this to get out of hand. And Heisenberg even gets an elimination with that explosive there, looking to get Tekken down, but Tekken comes out on top. Gunnar in the meantime on elimination streak. The combo breaker is going to come out for Chatri, so he does manage to put an end to that one.
We are seeing Mighty here. He might just get overwhelmed here. His teammate sure does. So now Mighty's going to try to go in there, but there's a double elimination here from Heisenberg. Also get the Blade Master to boot, so that's extra points right now for Damage Gaming, and this is looking very decisive right now from their part. We're talking 270 score for Damage Gaming and only 150 for Prestigious.
Yeah, 3 minutes on the clock, but it doesn't look like we'll need that many to find out who's going to come out victorious here. There's already essentially a 100-point lead coming out here. And you can see Boxer just sticking together with Mighty here. They're going to try and make an attempt at taking Heisenberg down. Heisenberg somehow miraculously still alive. That explosive dealt so much damage, but Chattery did manage to put that final bullet in there, so gets the elimination, gets those points for his team. For Prestigious, they seem slightly scared. They're staying towards their base and not really pushing forward.
And that's the thing, like, if you're a team like Damage Gaming, even for them, I don't really recommend pushing any further. They already have the advantage, so they can very easily just camp their spawn, but no, they want to get them eliminations, they want to get the high score, and that's understandable. We are seeing some engagements going on here. Blazer with the Avalanche, he doesn't fight a single one, and we are seeing the Prestigious roster slowly but surely, they are coming back to this one.
Yeah, Gunner now, very important position for himself. Must not overextend. He's welcome there. Needs to make sure that his teammates are also joining the fine hand. Blaze and Heisenberg both finding those openings. Gunner now needs to take care of Boxer. Does exactly that. And Chattery standing there waiting for his team to respawn to make for another breakaway push there. Gunner with that perfect aim. Just not allowing things to happen for Prestigious here. And Damage Gaming only need a few more points before they're going to run away with the victory here. There's already a man on the flank, if I'm not mistaken. Boxer in the meantime looking for Heisenberg super actively here. He knows he's just around the corner. The teammates are passing information. He didn't see Gunner behind him. Blaze was there as well, and a few more points, and that is going to be it. Damage Gaming looks like are going to be running away with the victory here, and a very clean 2-0 sweep against Prestigious. And I must say, Damage Gaming, they look like they have some sort of like a mission in their mind as to how they approach these matches. They open things up super fast, and they always make sure that they get the first strike just to put that little pinch of salt in their opponent's pocket.
Yeah, and not only that, like this team in particular, I just don't think they clearly understand one very simple thing. They are the best team so far in the Southeast Asia region, so that's one of the main reasons why even at times where you might think, oh, a team like this has to play it quite safe. No, even while it's having like what 100-point lead, they're going in there, they're pushing into the spawn, they want to find the eliminations, and they just want to put a message here that we are the #1 team.
And that they're not afraid to fight for it as well. So, as you already said, they just love to keep the pressure up, even in situations where it's slightly risky perhaps for them. But as you can see, perhaps relatively lesser opponents, it actually works quite well because, as you saw, the Prestigious players just couldn't really leave their base without already taking some sort of damage to their side, so it was very difficult for them. Boxer towards the end did have a good opportunity being on a huge flank. They went on a mission to find Heisenberg. Unfortunately, of course, Gunner actually speaking about utilizing that elevation of that second level, Gunner was continuously there and obviously was making great use of that.
Yeah, and I do believe we do have our MVPs out, so obviously I wouldn't be too surprised if for the team like Damage Gaming we have Heisenberg. Of course,
again.
Who else? 380 T-score and 13 eliminations. Like, he had himself a fine game, it looks like.
It looks like it's essentially the same score, but I'm not entirely sure if these are correct or no. I do think Boxer... Okay, well, we're just going to assume that this is indeed correct here. So, Boxer was the MVP on the other side. So, hopefully, Prestigious can learn from their mistakes and make some sort of game plan for the next time when they go up against Damage Gaming. So, yeah, I was just told that those, unfortunately, were not the correct numbers. Let's have a look at the correct ones, though. Apologies for that, ladies and gentlemen.
The real MVPs.
The real MVPs. Oh, look again, Heisenberg in front.
Yeah, nothing much has changed here. Yes, he does have lesser score, but it still like shows that the man's got 11 eliminations, 4 assists, and still 165 score. That's about 1/4 of the amount of score his entire team got.
Yeah, and on the other side, Prestigious, that was actually Mighty who was the man of the hour there. So he had a score of 109, 6 eliminations and 7 assists there. So not too shabby, but perhaps would want a bit more eliminations considering it is a team deathmatch mode. So we saw great action and great stuff coming out from the G launchers in this matchup. Any words about that?
Well, we definitely saw them at the very first map, on Paradise Island. I can't deny that. But our second map, probably not too much, and I think for good reason. This is a small map. Yeah, on a map like Old Factory, it does make a lot of sense to just pull out the avalanches and just try to get in there up close and personal to your opponents and try to secure them eliminations. And that's the thing, like it was looking pretty good. And now let's take a look at the brackets. I mean, it
Yeah,
has been.
let's see what happened.
Yeah, the very first semifinals have concluded here, folks, and we can obviously tell you that our grand finalists are going to be Damage Gaming and Indian Wolves. I guess not too much of a surprise here.
Yeah, definitely not surprised about that one in that third and fourth position. So Prestigious are going to be battling it out, going up against Unkilled. So Unkilled, whilst we thought they're going to put up a more decent scoreline going up against Indian Wolves in that first matchup, unfortunately, it was not the case here today as it was last week. So for Unkilled, they will need to prove they're worthy of that third position. They're battling it out with Prestigious. Hopefully no forfeits, as already said. I don't want forfeits. I want to see battles. I want to see people going for those points, as points matter. Points always matter a lot, and especially matters for Indian Wolves now. They're currently sitting 125 points behind Damage Gaming, so it's super important that they get the victory here, because if they do, they get 100 points, and the second position gets 75. So they will essentially cut down the lead of Damage Gaming by 25 points, that difference that they currently have.
Yeah, that's going to be quite important for a team like Indian Wolves to secure a victory here. And I mean, if they secure the victory here and on the second week, on the very last week, to be honest,
Yeah,
like, that's going to be a pretty close affair here, a pretty close race between the two teams. So that's going to be very exciting to see. But here, at the third and fourth place deciders, I think, yeah, if you're a team like Prestigious and you're a team like Unkilled, you're obviously going to be wanting to fight for the third and fourth place decider because, again, the points matter quite a bit. The fourth team the team that finishes fourth, I do believe they get themselves, they get themselves 40 points. If you end up finishing third, 50 points. And
yeah.
I mean, you might think, it's just only 10 points, but they matter. And to be honest, they matter quite a bit. We could still maybe even wait to see one of these teams topple each other, and that could be very important.
And I'll quickly remind you as well that the battle for the third and fourth position, as well as the grand final, is actually going to be a best-of-5 series between these two teams. And best-of-5s are notoriously known for testing the true limits of you as a player, because it's a completely different scenario when you need to win just 2 maps, when you need to get all 3. That's really puts a toll on your shoulder.
Yeah, and I mean, stamina is quite important as well. And why not take a look at the replays here?
Yeah,
What
let's
we
have a look.
saw on our second semifinal here, and I guess we are going to be able to see that triple elimination we saw earlier from Heisenberg, of course. But before that, yes, we saw some early map control here from Heisenberg, but it was odd. I think he tried to capture the point here, but he definitely overstayed his welcome, and we saw
Well,
the roster here.
his team was swiped in the very beginning, if you remember. So they tried to go for that swipe, but got reverse swiped in return. So Heisenberg was just the last man standing there. And I also like to see that Damage Gaming are just ever present, same as in that first pair today of the teams that we saw. That they're just continuously playing around the site. Heisenberg essentially doesn't leave that position too far. He makes sure that he's always there and he can put some damage in, or just at least contest if the point is being taken at that point.
And even you might think, we have this massive total pole in the middle. Why aren't teams just standing right behind it and, hiding? That's not the best idea, because that's the thing. Paradise Island, you can get very easily flanked, and you might think, oh, I'm safe here. You wait a couple more seconds, and boom, there's a flank that eliminates you.
Yeah, there's so many routes and so many corners that you can peek behind and quickly pop out, put some damage in, hide behind a corner again, make sure you can pop that heal, or even just put an explosive onto the ground when you can see that your opponents are trying to capture your point, just to get them off of it, and then afterwards battle it out with them. Also, we saw quite a few Blade Masters coming out in this match here, but Blaze opened things up, setting things ablaze essentially on that second map there, Old Factory. I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself.
It's okay. There's a lot of puns you can make with some of the names here.
Yeah. Puns for days. Gunner, of course, as well, as already said, he made great use of that second floor elevation, and I think he found quite a few limbs of his own just being above their opponents, and obviously for their opponents as well. It takes a little while before you understand where you actually get shot from, and seeing that the player is in the distance is obviously something hard to deal with. And I like this flank from Heisenberg. He got 2 eliminations. He got information that there are 2 opponents to his right-hand side, and he instantaneously went for that middle play
Yeah.
and got the flank on those 2. So that's already like a 40-50 point lead that he obtained there just easily.
And that's the thing, like also if we talk about Old Factory, we talk about, say, the top middle portion of the map, that elevated surface there. Yes, it's a pretty good way to be using, say, your sniper rifles, but one of the other ways you can also use it, if you have yourself top mid presence, that is also a pretty great flanking route. Say you see your opponents downwards, you just jump down and get some of them easy eliminations, as they shouldn't be able to expect you coming in from up and above.
I mean, there's so much action that's sometimes happening that it's hard for you to remember where you saw your opponent, and you actually can slightly hide behind a corner on that elevation toward that middle, and then afterwards just wait for your opponent to push, just as you already said, too far, drop down, be behind them. And I do think that Heisenberg actually made that play there during this match where he got 2 eliminations, just jumping down in between 2 of the prestigious players there.
Yeah, I think that might have happened even a couple times, if I recall correctly. And that's the thing, like, they abused that sort of elevated surface, and that's something we didn't really get to see too much out of the other roster.
It's called adapting to your surroundings.
Oh, of course. I mean, yeah, that's the thing. Like, if you're a team like Damage Gaming, sure, use every single advantage you have at your disposal. Why not?
I mean, essentially, it's a war between these 2 happening in a small confined space, so you need to adapt and just find every slither, every little bit that could give you some sort of an advantage over your opponent. So if it's being super aggressive, if it works, nobody's judging you. You just need to make sure that you can secure those points, and obviously Damage Gaming have done so. Also, a quick word about the final. So Damage Gaming is going to go against Indian Wolves. Now, as I already said, Indian Wolves actually have won once, if I'm not mistaken, against Damage Gaming in the finals.
I think they have, in fact.
Yeah, so...
It was a while back, though. I think it might have been a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, somewhere around that. And curious to see as well. Now, seeing how Indian Wolves play today, I do think they have a super solid chance at doing it again.
That's definitely a possibility, because if we do recall to last week, yes, again, we saw a victory there coming in from Damage Gaming, but it wasn't the most decisive victory. I think we actually even gone to all 5 maps in that series, and on the very last map, like, it came down to the wire, and probably could even have been an unkilled victory. So now that we have a more competent team here from Indian Wolves, who knows, this could be very exciting.
So we might potentially lose our voices here, is that what you're saying?
Oh, that's a possibility. If it's an exciting game, why not? I'm ready for it.
Yeah, well, we are going to be starting soon here. The players are just joining the server right now, making sure that everything is working fine and dandy. So first map in this best of 5 is going to be Farming Complex, control points. And the Farming Complex as well, so many flank routes, so many buildings that you can hide in, get eliminations from. Question is, which points do they go for? So you can actually see that Unkilled are going to go for that right-hand side for that C control point. In the meantime, Prestigious are going to capture A, and Skilled already opening things up, finding Boxer there. Very quickly they move on to the B capture point. It looks like they will be able to obtain it unless Tekken can do something about it. He did try to go for it, but unfortunately it went down. And currently Prestigious players are just going down one by one.
Yeah, that's a bit problematic right now for Prestigious. I do believe we do see one of the players actually capping the B control point, but the problem is, the Unkilled roster is still holding some important ground here, and it looks like Skill is going to be able to stop the cap from happening. He's going to try to go for more of these eliminations, but the man's low in HP. He has to be quite careful of how he wants to engage these players, and he goes in for the avalanche, of course.
So he made Boxer feel like he's safe and went for a quick flank there. Oh my god, that's exciting stuff to see. Gunrag now finding 2 of his own. The double elimination comes out for him, as he cannot really stay on that point because Boxer was there. So still, this match currently slightly favors Unkilled, but definitely Prestigious are here to tell us a different story if they can. They're trying to capture this A control point. A lot of damage being put down here onto Unkilled players, and Prestigious have actually overtaken the lead now. The battle is for that B control point, as Moriarty is trying to recapture it, but Mighty coming in will be able to take him down and will try to recapture it. In the meantime, Skilled has also joined the battle here, so the Blade Master, though.
Flanked.
Oh, the Blade
That's a bit problematic right now for a team like Unkilled. They had such a stellar start, and right now the game is more or less slipping away from them. Yes, they are able to acquire themselves the control, but we do see Hulk coming in there with a flank. This could be massive here for Unkilled as they're finding the necessary eliminations, and there we go. That's going to be the B control point going into their name, but it's still a prestigious roster coming out on top. Skilled there with an elimination of his own, and now prestigious. They're back here with the spawn, and they're going to go in for the push.
What's weird though that Unkilled have actually completely forgotten about control point C. It's been uncontested for almost a full minute now.
Yeah, that is quite weird though. We even see Skilled running through the control point. It doesn't look like he cares about it too much. But that's the thing, like if they're going to have A and B, that could be enough for them. And now Hulk, he's there with the flank. He's got the avalanche out. He could use the back of his own teammates, but it's simply not there. And now Mighty and Tekken, they are quite low in HP, but they do have a third man coming in. So now Prestigious, even though they're slightly below them, they can still pull this one back.
Yeah, Unkilled are leading only by that slither point amount, and as I said, that very quickly turned into 100 points as both Hulk and Moriarty, also Gunrak, did manage to find an opening there. So still 2 minutes on the clock for Prestigious to change the tides here, and they need to capture a point quickly. They're trying to do that on the A capture point, but Boxley simply cannot withstand the amount of bullets coming out from Skilled. He even puts an explosive down onto the ground there. Chatry finds the opening, but Hulk very quickly able to trade that one out, and it looks like that Unkilled are going to be running away with the victory here in this first map, unless Prestigious somehow super quickly take over these points. That is going to be it. It looks like it is finalized, so Unkilled very quickly captured that first map in this best of 5. Definitely cannot say it was in a super convincing fashion, as Prestigious had very good openings. They did manage to overtake the lead a few times. They actually had the C control point in control for a very long time, because Unkilled just didn't really care that it was in their control. They were more worried about that A and B point. So Prestigious not out of the woods just yet. That is, Unkilled is not really out of the woods yet, as Prestigious are still trying to tap their feet there.
Because this is, after all, a best of 5, so yes, you might have ended up losing the first map. You still have at least 2 more to go, so there's always a possibility for the roster like Prestigious to come back into this one. But, I'd like to mention one thing is that, yes, we did saw the early lead there coming in from the Unkilled roster, but the Prestigious guys, somewhere in the mid portion of the map, they really showed up there. Yes, they might have had the C point for a very long time, but most importantly, they're also finding some very crucial eliminations.
Speaking of eliminations, let's have a look at the MVPs and see how much they did manage to rack up in this first match here. So, on the side of Unkilled, Gunrag actually was the man of the hour, so 202 score for himself, eliminations about 10, 7 assists as well there. And on the side of Prestigious, Mighty again actually with the 206 points, 9 eliminations, 5 assists, so not far off from what Gunrag did manage to put up on the table here for his team. And also I like to see that the actual point difference was super small, meaning that for Prestigious, probably the things that didn't really work out is that they didn't have the control points long enough in their favor, as well as perhaps a few eliminations just didn't really go their way.
Yeah, that is also one of the things we could definitely discuss here. But one of the things I will mention is the late momentum shift.
Yes.
One of the main reasons why I do believe the roster of Unkilled were able to pull it through at the very end is because they were able to find, 4 eliminations in the span of a second or two. Mm-hmm. They find those eliminations. From that point onward, you have the players capping the points simultaneously. And from that point onward, that is such a hard game to be winning for the Prestigious guys. I mean, they definitely tried here, but by that point, I think it was 150 score favor there for the Unkilled roster.
Yeah, so as you already said, that shift and the fact that they can very quickly take care of their opponent. Also, obviously, the opponent now needs to, first of all, respawn. Second of all, make their way towards the side. That's already so much time lost. And God forbid if they lose someone along the way, that's just a disaster for them. So hence how that point difference was created there. So super nice stuff, of course, coming out from Unkilled, as expected. I would say, considering they're sitting in that 3rd position here and are slightly in front of Prestigious players, as also the standings showed us in the beginning there.
Yeah, and I guess you can also now talk about really quickly about, some of the maps that will be coming up here.
Yeah,
And
speaking
looks
of.
like, yeah, speaking of, it is, of course, Military Warehouse here, Team Deathmatch. And what we saw earlier, we saw some of the players, in fact, Mighty, I actually think he found a better scoreline than the player that actually won there from the Unkilled side. So who knows, maybe the fragging department is going to be looking pretty solid here for the Prestigious boys.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how they're going to place themselves on the map here. You can see Prestigious do like to stick together, and actually Unkilled are going to go for the same thing. They went for a push towards the middle here. Boxer opening things up, and Tekken and Mighty both following up with those shotguns up close. So much damage dealt so very quickly here for the side of Unkilled, and they're going to be reset, and they need to think up of a different game plan. Tekken was lost in the middle of nowhere. They went down, and Hulk, even with the G launcher, finds Boxer, and that's a point definitely going in his favor.
And, that aggressive push there from the likes of Unkilled, it clearly didn't work out. The Prestigious roster was just ready there for such a push to take place, and they had such a good crossfire set up. Now we are seeing, because of that early eliminations, Prestigious do have a bit of a lead here, a whole 60 points here. Now I like this from the Prestigious guys. They're going to be playing this one passively, it looks like, except for Boxer. He will be going down, but the damage has been dealt. It is a trade after all. Now Prestigious, they still got to be quite careful about their approach. They didn't really want to go through here. Middle looks like they do. That's an elimination there for Mighty.
Okay, so now Tekken tried to take care of Skilled, but unfortunately Skilled is just too skilled for him, as he even finds Mighty in the process there as well. Prestigious now still in the lead with 70 points, 3.5 minutes on the clock here, and it looks like it might be a different story on this map unless Unkilled managed to group up and do a clean sweep of Prestigious.
Yeah, we are seeing Unkilled. They're in the disadvantageous position right now. They're the ones who have to make the play here if they still want to come back into the second map. And we are seeing Mighty there with the flank. He will get the G-Launcher. He's going in there with the shotgun of all weapons. That's going to be a double elimination there for Hulk and a Blade Master to boot. That is extra points here for the Unkilled roster, sure, but we still have a 120-point lead.
20-point lead as now Unkilled are taking over, so very quickly they do manage to close that point difference, and now it's the pressure on for Prestigious. Tekken does manage to find two, gets a triple elimination here as well with the Blade Master on top, takes the explosive to his face, and it doesn't matter, he's on elimination streak. Tekken, unstoppable force currently on the Prestigious side and giving that valuable point lead there. In the meantime, Boxer from above does find Skilled with the help of his teammate. Is going to be running around the corner, is going to be greeted also by 3 players there. Chatri in the meantime does find a point for himself, as now Hulk with that double elimination and the combo breaker on top. That's some nice stuff coming out from him.
Yeah, that's great right now for the Unkilled roster. Bonus points for them, and they're so close to catching up here against Prestigious. This is going to be very important. These last couple eliminations are going to be so crucial, and they are working out here for Prestigious. The dudes still have the lead here, but the players haven't softened up, but it doesn't matter. There's Chattery with the Blade Master, and we are seeing the players here going down here like flies. Unkilled. Oh boy, they have quite the challenge for them.
Yeah, exactly. Now Mighty, and with the help of his teammates, just needs to find a few more eliminations here. Hulk does try to get one, does succeed. Now Chatri is there to try and return the favor. In the meantime, Tekken is going to put an end to this with a nice Blade Master there. So this was a backwards and forwards game, definitely. But for Prestigious, I must say that you can't even tell by the way how they're playing that they lost the first map. It's a one-on-one now.
Yeah, like this is now 1-1, and I must admit, the Prestigious roster, they looked pretty fine in that matchup. In Military Warehouse, I think for the majority of the time, they were the ones who did have the lead, and one of the main reasons behind it is that early start. They get themselves a great early start where we see the players there from Unkilled making this, and can he push their 4 players for such a tight choke point? And I mean, for Prestigious, all they had to do was just hold the crossfire, and from that point onward, they secured themselves, what? I'd like to say a 60-point lead. That is pretty massive in TDM.
In TDM, indeed, as well as speaking about that crossfire that you mentioned previously, I just like to point out that, again, it was down to just essentially a few of those 1v1 engagements where the prestigious players did manage to come out on top, and I'm so surprised to see that, oh, I can't remember the name of the player who got the triple elimination there in that scenario somehow miraculously. It was on prestigious side, but I'm sure we'll see in the form of MVP. So let's have a look at them and see who was out on top. So on the side of Unkilled, we do have Hulk sitting at 179 points of his own, 9 eliminations, 5 assists, and Boxer on the side of prestigious, 11 eliminations and 8 assists of his own. So very impressive stuff coming out from Boxer. Super happy to see that they can put up more eliminations than the Unkilled side. And of course, for this side of Unkilled, I don't know what you really take away from this match if you're Unkilled.
I think hardly anything, to be honest.
Yeah, because there were no crucial mistakes made. Things just really didn't work out for them.
Yeah, and I guess we could talk about one of the things is obviously that both of these teams were able to find not only the eliminations, but in the manner they did so. We're talking Blade Master, Explosives, and most importantly, we saw a lot of these triple eliminations coming in. So guys, if you don't know how it works, I mean, if you find a triple elimination, that's going to be extra points coming into your favor. But again, if you have a streak going on like that, if you eliminate the player with such elimination streak, you're going to be getting yourself the combo breaker, and that's extra points for you. So there's a bit of a double-edged sword when you have a player that is able to have so much impact in a game.
Yeah, and you're obviously going to be always on the lookout for that one man who stands out in the crowd and trying to take care of him. But up next, we will see Wild West Saloon. Any words about this map? I do think it's quite an interesting one for these teams, actually for both of them.
I guess we could talk about Saloon. It is a map that I kind of say it is pretty even to some extent, but it is also a map that can be very difficult to retake because if you are able to hold the control point, the interesting thing about Saloon is that you do have an elevated surface that is pretty much close by the point itself. You can be hiding in the, well, Saloon itself, and you also have the carriage there close by the point, so there's some very good angles you can be holding if you're a team in control.
Yeah, so for the reason that it's hard to retake that capture point at times,
right.
It is both forgiving and also just very punishing as a map, as obviously it's super crucial for one of the teams to obtain control over that point very early, and then afterwards make sure that you can position a player, as you said, towards that elevated surface, towards the capture point, just so he can peek over, see what's going on, perhaps fall back, call for backup, and obviously if you have a player in Saloon, they're hiding behind the bar stool or somewhere, that's also something that's very hard to deal with, especially if someone tries to quickly run in, take care of him, and unfortunately, quite oftentimes we see a few shots missed, and that ends up with the player trying to push actually going down. So it's basically a stick with two ends, as we usually say.
Yeah, you could definitely call it like that. A map like Saloon will also be one of the maps where we will be seeing some very early engagements happening here. Pretty much once you spawn, you want to make your way to the point as soon as possible to make sure there's no one either capping it or no one close by holding the angles to make sure you don't cap it. So yeah, like a map like Saloon, it is quite an interesting one, to be honest, and we don't really get to see it too often here coming out. It's been primarily in this best of fives. I think Saloon might actually come out and say the top 8, maybe top 16. So yeah, it's not a map you do get to see often being played out here in, say, the top 4 other than the finals.
Yeah, and in terms of game plan as well, I would like to see perhaps something like a 4-man push very early on coming out, like just sticking together as a unit just to make sure that they can break their way towards that capture point, battle it out, and afterwards. I don't think splitting into like pairs is the optimal way here.
You can't really split it in pairs, to be honest, here in a map like Saloon. Pretty much you're going to have to make your way onto the point. But that's the thing. If you're going to be sticking very close together, that's also not a very good idea. Because if you're going to be sticking together like that, you know what? Explosives.
Yeah, we've seen so many G launchers.
They can do some serious damage here against the boom. So yeah, you got to be quite careful on your approach. If you're going to be sticking together, sure, that's an option to play it. But there still has to be some spaces between the players.
Or you just need to be super fast. Somehow.
Or super fast.
Yeah, super fast. Okay, so Wild West Saloon, as we just spoke, King of the Hill between Unkilled and Prestigious. Currently sitting at 1 point for each side, so Wild West Saloon is definitely going to be a turntable for someone here. And as you can see, Boxer and Tekken on the right-hand side, Chatri on the left hand will find first strike here. Tekken able to follow up on that one. Hulk joining the battle now. Only gets one of his own. So Prestigious currently are in control of that capture point. Chatri needs to make sure he stays alive here, even gets the elimination onto Hulk. Went for that follow-up on Moriarty, who's currently trying to capture the point. The point will go in favor of Unkilled right now. So this is only 30 seconds into this match and already too much action happening, I would say.
That's a good thing right now if you're prestigious. You've been able to capture the control point. What you do right now is just stick there in the saloon. There's really no need to be peeking that aggressively there. Chatri, he had himself the high ground, and now there's the explosive coming in. Looks like the cap will be going in favor here for Unkilled, but they still need to eliminate some of these players here in the saloon. In particular, Mighty's one of them.
Yeah, Mighty is in a very annoying position for the side of Unkilled here. He actually jumps down, gets the launcher out. Somehow that did not connect their skills and manages to stay alive in this position. Tried to go for that point capture, but Boxer was just too healthy, and Skilled needed a few more bullets to get that elimination there. So Prestigious currently in the lead, Unkilled. They definitely still have plenty of options as to come back into this match. And in the meantime, Mighty on a very long flank here around the map, trying to fool the Unkilled players, but there's just too many of them right now on the capture point. That launcher from Tekken did so much damage, and now he's pushing forward, finding the double eliminations, and they're looking to recapture that point. But very quickly, Hulk on elimination streak coming in that one, and somebody just stopped that man.
Yeah, but even though he does find the elimination streak, there's still players here remaining close by the CP itself. We are seeing one of them. That's going to be Tekken here, coming in up close and personal with a shotgun. But that's the thing. All of his teammates have been eliminated. He's going to have to wait for them to respawn to make this push happen yet again. And that's going to be Mighty with a couple of those eliminations. I think he's going to go for more. Merciless, that's who Tekken is. And now we are seeing Prestigious with a pretty healthy positioning here. And there's a triple elimination there from Skilled. I do believe the CP is going to be going back in favor here for Unkilled.
And oh my, how the tides have changed for the side of Unkilled here as they're looking to take over this match now. Pushing forward continuously on elimination streak, Skilled was, as now Tekken and Boxer both on that capture point. Gunrag and Hulk trying to take care of them, but unfortunately Boxer is just too good right now for them to handle. In the meantime, Moriarty might go down there. That is exactly what happens as Mighty takes his elimination in that situation. So currently, same even points, 2 minutes on the clock, 1 against 1, and this is truly a brawl between the third and fourth position currently in the standings.
This is looking so close here on a third map. It's obviously not the final one, but we are seeing these teams giving it their all in order to secure a victory here. We are seeing Tekken here. He actually made his way into the CP to make sure to get the denial on, and he does a fine job at it. His teams are able to get the respawn in. We are seeing Prestigious with a bit of a lead here, not the healthiest of them. It's only 20 points. Now make that 30, make that 50 now because Unkilled, they're not able to find a single elimination right now. And Moriarty, he goes in for the G-Launcher and he finds the elimination.
Oh my god, he got
That's impressive.
That's even 2, so he gets the point lead back to Unkilled, who can now capture that point and essentially steal the map from Prestigious here, unless they make a very quick way towards the side. Chatri and Mighty do manage to find openings for them, but Gunrag changing the tides of the match here as Hulk comes in now, and that is going to be it. Unkilled steal the victory from Prestigious.
That was so close between the two teams, and honestly, not only did it came down to the control point itself, but primarily the team that found the most eliminations, and not only that, double eliminations, streaks in general, were able to secure the victory, and that was Unkilled.
I mean, the G launcher from the Unkilled side definitely showed how one explosive can completely change the tide of the match. It was just one explosive, but off of that, they got 2 eliminations. They managed to get follow-up ones as well, even captured the point, and as I already said, Prestigious, they're probably going to feel slightly upset about this one, because I personally would be.
And why wouldn't you? Like, you had yourself a pretty good scenario there for Prestigious. I mean, at one point, you know, they had themselves a pretty fine lead. I remember, I think it was the mid-portion of the game. But primarily, you know, they also had some good positioning. You know, they were holding the saloon pretty much constantly. The Unkilled roster had a very difficult time to push out the players from the saloon. And I must admit, you know, they showed us some very good holds, and they themselves found some nice eliminations. But sadly enough, that was not enough.
Yeah, so let's have a look at the MVPs and see who stood out in this match here. I'm actually quite excited to see, and it's actually going to be Moriarty for the first time here today on the side of Unkilled, standing out with a 262 score, 12 eliminations, and 6 assists, and he was very present on that capture point, so I'm not too surprised about that, but still, well done, Moriarty. And on the side of Prestigious, Boxer again on our screens with 236 points, 11 eliminations, and 7 assists of his own there. So Boxer, I mean, he did all he can to get his point that, excuse me, to get his team those points. Unfortunately, just slightly not enough, and that G launcher just changed the tides completely for them.
Yeah, that was a very important elimination to be finding because I do believe that one G launcher was able to eliminate 2 of the individuals in the saloon.
Yes.
And from that point onward, if you're the Unkilled roster, you get yourself the CP and just hold it. And that is enough for you to secure the victory. Now, again, Beneficus, we had our third map here. It was pretty close here between the two teams. We saw, the prestigious roster, glimpses of brilliance. But again, it wasn't enough for them to secure a victory here.
Yeah, so a lot of it is going to be running on Skyscrapers, which is going to be the next map we're going to see, which is a team deathmatch mode again between these two teams. Now, currently looking at, even though that Unkilled are sitting on 2 maps and Prestigious have only managed to get 1, I would say it is a completely 50-50 scenario in terms of who's going to take Skyscrapers. Because again, there's different elevations of that on that map, so a lot of it is probably going to come down to how these players can utilize their environment and how they can play out those situations. And I just keep the G launchers coming. I love them.
And I wonder, how will a team play it? Because if you remember last week on, Skyscrapers, I do believe it was, yeah, of course, it was Damage Gaming that did secure the victory last week.
Yes.
But the way they were playing it, like, I think they secured the early eliminations, and from that point onward, they just camped and spawned.
Yes.
They just camped and spawned. They made sure that the opponents are not going to be able to get, a 1 or even 2 eliminations more than them, and they secured the victory on the back of this sort of safe style.
That's probably off the back of the fact that there's so many flanking routes on this map as well. There's just so many corners to turn around and be surprised that there are like 2-3 opponents. You really don't want to risk with anything if you do have a solid lead in this map, and by solid I mean I would say probably like 120, 150 points is the moment where you stop really overextending your boundaries and just sticking to your side of the map and making sure that the opponent is pressured to come to you, and you know, on the other hand, and then have time to set up a trap.
Yeah, that's also one of the ways you can try to pull it off. Set up a trap, set up a good crossbar to make sure that you're watching the angles from where the opponent should be coming from. That is one way to secure a victory here. That's going to be especially important for a team like Unkilled. They're just 1 map away from getting themselves the 3rd place here. Obviously, not the grand final, but sure, it's better to secure the 3rd place than to lose in the final.
Yeah, and for Unkilled as well, I think for them, they'll probably come out with an all-out aggression here because they want that early engagement. So, Skyscrapers, team deathmatch, Unkilled just need this map in their pocket to secure the series in their favor and therefore the 3rd position. For Prestigious, they need to take this map in order to have a chance of grabbing that 3rd position in that next one. So as you can see, both of these teams are sticking together and not really too keen on opening things up with a lot of firepower. But as I say that, now Skilled on the flank here is going to find 2 of his opponents, and Chatri is going to come out on top very quickly there with that first strike and with that Blade Master. Now the team members are trying to retaliate. Unfortunately, things are not working out, and as I say that though, Hulk with the perfect aim takes care of 2 of his own and very quickly evens out the scoreboard here for us.
Yeah, this is pretty odd right now for Unkilled. It's not really a coordinated effort, I might call it. It is just these players pushing out there 1 by 1, and I can't say this is the best effort here, but we are seeing right behind the hedges here, there's Moriarty with a double elimination, has extra points to boot, and there's also Skill coming in, and there's Moriarty. He wants to help out his own teammates, but he's not going to be playing too aggressively. Unkilled, he have the advantage, and I think they might just begin to back away.
It looks like they're going to stick to any single small advantage they have. So just to make sure that the Prestigious are the ones looking for the engagement. Boxer actually on an elimination streak there. Chashri did manage to put down a G-Launcher rocket. Unfortunately, it did not really connect, but it doesn't matter as Boxer on the elimination streak just running around the map. And now already has provided a 60-point lead for his team over Unkilled. And now As we already spoke before, Unkilled are the ones that are on the hunt.
Yeah, they're definitely on the hunt here. They're skilled here. This is quite close here between the two players. Does Skill has any idea about one of these players coming in? No, it doesn't look like that's going to be the case here. Boxer will decide not to push that forward, but he is here in middle. That is quite peculiar that he is peeking out here one by one, hoping to find some of these engagements, but that's not really the case. Unkilled, they still have themselves a pretty nice lead here. The G-Launcher's there, but it won't connect. Boxer right now is right here close by the hedges, and he will be taken down by Hulk.
Again, Hulk with the perfect aim. I think it's the third one already I've seen here in this map coming out from him now. A Moriarty here did manage to find Mighty, but in return gets a rocket there as well. So things are going backwards and forwards here, ladies and gentlemen, as 2 minutes and 40 seconds on the clock between these two teams. The point lead currently in favor of Prestigious, and is super small at that one as well. So continuously Unkilled are able to find these trades and most importantly put them side to side as double eliminations or even triples in their favor. As you can see on the side of Prestigious as well, Boxer currently standing out with 103 points of his own. On the other side, Moriarty actually here on the second map in a row where he's super present. As you can see, still, it seems a slightly backwards and forwards battle here between these two. There's now only 2 minutes on the clock remaining.
There you have now the sniper rifles coming in. That's a pretty long-range G-Launcher, but Gunrag won't get a single elimination there, and this is quite odd right now. If you're the Unkilled roster, you definitely want to try to find some of these eliminations here. There's Skill. There's a nice shot coming in from him. But there's going to be a lot more he has to find here, but better not so. I think he has to back away. The team's got the advantage, and that seems to be about it. Boxer, though, he will eliminate Hulk here. And we are seeing some crucial fights here in middle. There's Boxer. And in fact, that's going to be Tekken to secure that elimination. There's Tekken, and there's a lot of eliminations happening here. An elimination streak, but it will be shut down. So that's extra points here for Prestigious. And they are leading here, but by a very slim margin.
Both sides are able to continuously get those doubles and triples, so therefore the point lead is still essentially in favor of Prestigious, but basically the points are the same. Now Unkilled coming with those eliminations. This is crucial for either side right now, as Hulk and Moriarty both find one. Boxer is able to get one of his own as well. In the meantime here, Chatri just rejoining the fight and looking to push together with Tekken towards this left-hand side. The sniper rifles up close, don't see anything just yet, and looks like Mighty is also on the prowl, trying to see if he can spot any of his opponents. And Unkilled, it looks like it's going to be a group effort here soon enough. They're just gaining positions now as Hulk opening things up. Gundrag able to follow up on that one. Moriarty also finds one of his own. Now Mighty last man standing here as the rest of his team is responding, and Unkilled, do they dare to run away with the victory here again in the same fashion by stealing the map off of the Prestigious clutches?
This could possibly be the final push here for Prestigious. They're making it happen here. They must succeed here in order to secure a victory here, and that's not going to happen. That's an elimination streak there for Hulk, and that's going to be it. We do have our third place winner. That's going to be Unkilled.
Yeah, Unkilled. Man, it's a super painful way how Prestigious lost these two, because they were in lead the last two maps, and unfortunately they were just nicked off their hands by the Unkilled players. Their super proper job done by Moriarty on side of Unkilled, and as well as Hulk there in this clutch situation at the very end where all of it matters. He was able to get 1, 2, and even the third elimination there, and that was the final nail in the coffin for Prestigious, and therefore Unkilled are going to finish this series with a 3-against-1.
Yeah, a 3-1 scoreline is still, you know, it's not the most convincing of victories here for the Unkilled roster for sure, especially if we compare how the last couple of maps have turned out, but it's a good opportunity as any to take a look at our MVPs. I wouldn't be too surprised if you do see a guy like Skill here top of the chart here, and oh no, it's going to be Hulk here.
The man of the hour, so the guy who managed to finish things off.
Yeah, he did find that elimination streak at the very end now, didn't he?
Yeah, so 153 points, 9 eliminations, 5 assists for himself. On the side of Prestigious, for the third time today, Boxer, 157 points, 10 eliminations, and 6 assists of his own. So, I'm very excited to see that Boxer is definitely showing up a lot more on these MVPs. Previously, we've seen him in action quite a lot, but usually he does tend to be more on the supportive role, and it looks like he was the fragger here for his team today. Unfortunately, Prestigious Gaming's Prestigious, that is going to remain in that 4th position, so therefore they're going to get 40 points for themselves, and in the standings, not really anything is going to change off the back of this.
Yeah, probably not too much, but I guess we could take a look at the brackets. Why not? Of course, that's where we saw our today's 2 semifinals being played out, and of course, our 3rd and 4th place decider. You see Unkilled coming out here on top with a 3rd place finish. And now, of course, the grand final. Now, this should be quite the exciting match here between Damage Gaming and Indian Wolves.
Okay, so Damage Gaming and Indian Wolves, they've met before a lot of the times. Historically, Damage Gaming have come out on top of Indian Wolves, but by saying that, Indian Wolves have a few victories of their own, or at least one for sure that we can account for. So therefore, it is going to be an interesting match coming out here today in the grand finals. Indian Wolves definitely are in a position where they can stand against Damage Gaming 100%. Question is how it's going to play out today.
Yeah, we'll see how it's going to be playing out. But folks, before we see our grand final, we will be going over to a very quick commercial break. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the broadcast. It's still us, Sir Danny and Beneficus. Hope you did get yourself the snack and a refreshment. Of course, you want to stay fresh because we are jumping into our grand final. This should be some amazing Guns of Boom action here,
Super
Beneficus.
exciting stuff coming out. A lot of rocket launches today, a lot of explosions, a lot of action happening. Maps being stolen here in the third and fourth battle. What happened? When speaking about battles, let's have a look at the brackets. And just in case if someone was joining and tuning in now, we'll give you a quick breakdown as to what went down here today.
I guess we could begin with our very first semifinal of the day. It was Damage Gaming versus Prestigious. We obviously saw Damage Gaming securing the 2-0 victory. Probably not the most convincing of wins, but a win nonetheless.
Yes, and the second matchup was Unkilled going up against Indian Wolves. And this also was a very interesting one. Last week, Unkilled actually did manage to secure a 2-0 victory. And this week, it's a completely different story. Indian Wolves came out with a super dominant performance in the first map and were able to follow up on the second one, which of course ultimately led us to that third and fourth place battle.
Yeah, and in the third and fourth place battle, we obviously saw Unkilled going up against Prestigious. And here, it was a pretty close affair in some of these maps, even, I'd say, throughout the majority of the maps being played out here of the best of 5. But of course, it was Unkilled that did come out on top from their performance last week. I guess it's not that big of a surprise.
In one sense, yes. In the other, it was 50-50 matches in those the second and in the third and fourth map actually between Unkilled and Prestigious, where Unkilled essentially in the last minute did manage to change the tides of the game and therefore secured those two maps in their favor, securing that third position and of course solidifying themselves in that third spot as well in the standings. So happy days for Unkilled. They did manage to secure 50 points and of course a bit money in their pockets as well off the back of that. But now, ladies and gentlemen, as the teams are preparing for the grand final that is Damage Gaming going up against Indian Wolves, we're going to have a quick look at the replay here just in case if anyone missed what went down in the battle for the third and fourth place here. So let's see how how Unkilled went up against Prestigious. I'm already excited for the grand finals here, just can't contain myself.
Yeah, don't worry. We'll get the grand finals, Beneficus. Don't worry about that. But before that, sure, the replays here from a third and fourth place decider. This is where we actually saw one of the more important tide changes in our first map. We obviously saw, the guys there from Prestigious having themselves a pretty nice lead here. In fact, I think they were leading it by 100 points by one point. But obviously, we saw the guys there from Unkilled making a bit of a comeback here as they did find some crucial eliminations here at the latter stages of the game.
And as you can see in the replays as well, quite a lot of the times the C control point was uncontested from the side of Unkilled. They did decide to more focus on that A and B and capture point. And then, of course, afterwards jumping into military warehouse here, this was essentially a backwards and forwards match between these two. I mean, there's so many lead changes here. Therefore, that is the team that was in the lead on this map, and all of the map was utilized. Basically, there were battles happening everywhere. It's not like some part of the map was ignored by either of the teams, and of course, they were super keen to get those eliminations here. Mighty Doe slightly overstayed his welcome in that situation. He was already sitting on a double elimination, but ran into two opponents of his own and unfortunately just couldn't withstand that firepower. And as I already said, the G launchers today, man, I mean, they've seen so many double eliminations, triple eliminations off the back of that as well. And moving forward into that Wild West Saloon match here, this was a roller coaster of emotions for me.
And for us, yeah, but imagine for the teams, how did they feel when this was such a close affair between the two teams? And obviously, I think this was a very important map for a team like Unkilled to actually have their players stepping up. If they didn't step up in the last couple hundred points remaining, if they didn't step up, I imagine this would have been a prestigious victory.
Yeah, indeed. Well, Prestigious, as I already said, they definitely had the opportunities to close things out, but sometimes even the minute details play a huge role here, and therefore, as you saw on our screens, the players from Unkilled were able to change the tides. Now, this final map, though, it started off super carefully from either side. Nobody really wanted to overextend their welcome. Nobody really wanted to push far enough into the map here. Hulk did try to go for those early attempts, and afterwards, towards the latter side of the match, did find more success of getting those longer distance engagements. And with that perfect aim and with the sniper rifle, he found so many crucial kills, and actually Hulk was the man who got the final eliminations in this match and therefore secured the victory for Unkilled here. You can see a preview of what I was talking about just now coming out from Hulk here as he gets an elimination, drops down instantly, changing his position, making sure he's always on the move. And from Unkilled, what was interesting on this map, they did prefer to stay more outside, not inside the actual buildings.
Yeah, and I think one of the reasons behind it is if you're holding a position, say, right close by the hedges, it can be very much a disastrous approach for your opponents. As you're walking in there, you see, oh, there's a couple players here with the avalanches out. I'm probably a goner. Yeah. That is actually a very powerful position to be holding. So if you're holding such a spot, say, as we did see for the prestigious roster, it's one of the few approaches you can give to a map like skyscrapers. Yes, we talk about the hedges, but one of the other parts of the map is obviously middle.
Yeah, middle was a super active part of the map, especially as you already said, with those avalanches. And I mean, it's always a scary sight to behold when you're the player that decides to, say, perhaps obtain a certain position on the map, pushing around the corner. And as you already said, if you are greeted by 2 or 3 of those avalanches against you, yeah, you start to understand that you're not really welcome here, and chances are you're not really making out. So all you can do is dish out as many damage as you can in that situation, and then afterwards, hopefully try to escape with your life, or perhaps pop a heal or 2 just running around the corner and trying to get that health back, as your teammates, of course, need to come in and help you out. Now, speaking of helping out and speaking of explosives and damage, Danny, finally we have come to this Damage Gaming going up against Indian Wolves. Now, again, this is going to be a best of 5 series, so either side needs at least 3 maps here in their pocket, so they need to secure 3 victories before they will be deemed the winner of the grand finals in this cup number 6.
And cup number 6, we do have our grand finalists. I hope they're going to be getting ready as soon as possible, but yeah, it is also important to note that these 2 teams have already met in one of the cups. I think it was a couple weeks ago. I think it might have been cup number 4.
3 or 4, definitely. Yeah.
Where the Indian Wolves roster was able to come out on top against, well, at the time, Too Easy for All-Stars, but now they're known as, obviously, Damage Gaming. So there's always a possibility. I mean, you got to have it in the back of your head if you think, okay, we won against these guys not too long ago. We obviously did something right to secure a victory, and possibly we can still do it again.
Yeah, and I really like the tendency that I saw from Indian Wolves here today when they still were in that semi-final match when on Paradise Island. They showed how much of a control freak they could essentially be when they very early come out with aggression and then afterwards just basically push their opponent back into their base by securing those pathways that lead to the capture points or that lead out from the base and making sure that they can always put down damage, and therefore the opponent really cannot even start the battle with a full health, which of course always puts them at a disadvantageous position.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If you do have yourself the early start, there's always a good possibility of you to not only to continue on holding the positions, but one of the things you can definitely do in your approach is to continue on playing aggressively. As you continue on playing with an aggressive style, you're able to eliminate your players a bit, shall I say, not your players, the opponents, a bit earlier on in the matchup, and that's obviously going to allow you to get an early lead.
Yeah, so the teams will be battling it out soon here again. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Farming Complex control points coming out between Damage Gaming and Indian Wolves. So who's going to get the first capture points and how many can they get before they get eliminated is the big question here. As you can see, the first players are making their way. It looks like from the side of Damage Gaming, they are going to prefer that CB capture point. Indian Wolves do prefer the A capture point, and already Ravi Teddy is on the flank there. Explosive goes on to the ground and Hope is back, making that first strike here. Heisenberg tries to do something about it, but Hope able to get that Blade Master there as well. A quick double elimination coming out from him. Rice as well joining the battle, but Exhorder in the meantime does put him down. Now Ravi Reddy is continuously on the flank there. Gunner in the meantime finds 2 of his own as well, and now a 30-point lead for Damage Gaming, but it's definitely not enough to say anything about the match just yet here, as that explosive from Heisenberg and even the shotgun there as well. So Heisenberg showing up as well, and that's just scary for Indian Wolves.
that's such an important fight to be winning there for Indian Wolves, because if you end up losing a player there on the A cap, that could have easily been free now points acquired by Damage Gaming, and now we are seeing Gunnar there coming in with the flank. Not sure how successful he is. Apparently he isn't, as Ghost going to be taking him down. Now we are seeing the points still in contention here, especially the one on the B side here on A, and now we are seeing some good eliminations coming in from Heisenberg. I do believe he will be capping the B point anytime soon, but here's the thing though, Indian Wolves, they're still going to be taking over A here. Heisenberg, he's got a lot to do here, and he won't do too much as the players now from Indian Wolves, they are coming in, and there's also an impressive flank there from X-Horder. He does find one elimination, but there's a lot more players he has to find, and he can't be going out quick enough.
Yeah, he wasted at least enough time for Gunnar to come in here. He did manage to find two of his own. Hope is back again with that. G-Launcher finds another one, and a Blade Master on top. Hope is back, is on a triple elimination here, as only now X-Horder has managed to put him down, but that's so many points gained. Now Damage Gaming being the lead with 100 points, 3 minutes on the clock here. Ravi ready, putting that explosive onto the ground. He's actually going to go down, as there's just too much firepower going his way from the side of Damage Gaming.
Yeah, that's the thing, folks. For those who are tuning in right now, this is, of course, the grand final, and the winner of this map will only be declared victorious once he achieves 1,200 points, and so far, that is looking pretty good for Damage Gaming. They almost have a lead of 200 points, and as we do see, a bit of engagement here coming in there from Ghost. He does secure the explosive. That's the thing, though, Indian Wolves, they're capping some of these points right now.
And Indian Wolves are making great use of that G-Launcher. It definitely seems like their rockets connect a lot more. In the meantime, though, both Gunnar and X-Order find Blade Masters of their own. So therefore, again, extra points obtained here. The points are ticking in their favor right now. In the meantime, only the C capture point is being taken by Indian Wolves. And currently now, Hope is back as long as he stays alive here. But Blaze with that quick flank, perfect aim as well, has full health, full armor, tries to recapture that point, looking for his opponent, spots it out. The G-Launcher from Ravi ready does take care of them in that situation. Gunnar now able to get one of his own, but very quickly Ghost will return the favor here. Another 200-point lead for Damage Gaming, and Indian Wolves need a clean wipe right now, otherwise they don't have any chances in this one. The C and B capture point is controlled by Damage Gaming, and 100 points only for them, even less than that before they run away victorious here in this first map.
And I think that's going to be it, Vinivictus. It is going to be Damage Gaming running with the first map as they do secure victory here on Farming Complex.
Yeah, so Farming Complex definitely looks like a map that Damage Gaming have a solid idea of how it needs to be played. It was opened up on a very quick pace, and I like the fact as well that Damage Gaming put all of their efforts generally into 2 control points, but they didn't really give up completely on that C capture point. They actually went towards the middle part of the match. They went and recaptured C as well. I think it was Blaze that was on that point there. He was single-handedly holding it down because obviously there was only one more opponent coming to recapture it from the side of Indian Wolves. And for Blaze, it seems like it was just an easy job to just face a one-on-one player. He took care of him but in the form of an elimination, and obviously recaptured that C point, which gave the essentially 200-point lead for the Damage Gaming side.
I guess you could say Blaze was a bit of a one-man army, and that's the thing. If you're a team like Damage Gaming and you do have these impressive individuals coming into play, it's no secret that they can definitely step up when the time is needed the most. And I guess we're going to take a look at the MVPs right now from our first map here. And I do believe we will have, yes, on the side of Damage Gaming, we do have Gunnar here sitting at 252, scored 13 eliminations and 6 assists.
And on the side of Indian Wolves, Hope actually was the man of the hour with 193 points, 11 eliminations and 3 assists. Now, Hope got a lot of those eliminations with that G-Launcher. He got at least 3, I believe, together in 2 engagements with the G-Launcher, and of course you get a lot of assistive damage as on top of that as well. So good job for Indian Wolves of making sure that they can utilize their G-Launchers and those explosives in their hands. Unfortunately, Farming Complex didn't go their way, so the next map is going to be Military Warehouse, Team Deathmatch mode, and this I think, is the moment where we're going to define what sort of style we're going to see from either side coming out in the third map. Because in the second one, in a team deathmatch scenario, where a lot of the pressure is on your shoulders because every single engagement counts. Every single engagement means someone is going to get an elimination. Eliminations mean points, and obviously getting double eliminations or triples, as you previously mentioned, that's a super valuable thing that you need to have on the team deathmatch mode.
And that's the thing, like, Team Deathmatch, I think, is going to be the real battleground, for a team like Indian Wolves. If they will have the confidence to secure a victory on Team Deathmatch, there's always a possibility that if their players are confident enough, they still have a lot of hope to secure, victory here if in the entire best of five. But to be honest, if they won't have a good showing on Team Deathmatch, I must admit I won't have the most amount of hope for this roster to secure a victory
Yeah,
here.
I completely agree with that. I do think that Indian Wolves perhaps could be, at least looking at how they play, they might be a team that more rely as to how the match in general is going. Is it in their favor or if not? And being in a situation now where on Military Warehouse, they need to find those crucial eliminations. And they definitely, I do think that they're going to start very aggressively, as we saw them doing that in the semifinals today as well. I think that's the right approach for them to find that momentum that they need to gain, because they are a team that highly relies on momentum as far as we've seen here.
And I wonder how they get their momentum. Shall they go for the aggressive play, which some teams like to be doing it on a map like Military Warehouse? That's definitely a possibility. Or will they be playing this one quite safe? In the recent meta here of Guns of Boom, primarily just been the aggressive plays early on, and then once you do have the advantage, you can just go for a bit of a camp there.
Yeah, just reset your team. Make sure that you perhaps even talk things over mid-match and just see how you can approach that next push that is going to be coming out from your opponent. Or even think about the later game. You can actually talk about in these small, brief pause moments as to what you're going to do if, say, there's only a minute on the clock and the points are even, or what sort of game plan you want to do against a specific opponent. And as well, speaking about specific opponents, so for Indian Wolves, Damage Gaming is not an unfamiliar name. Like, they know their opponents. So therefore, question is, what Damage Gaming have changed perhaps going up against Indian Wolves, and can Indian Wolves spot that difference, and can they find a different way in?
We'll see if anything's being changed here, but because we're jumping into a Military Warehouse Team Deathmatch here, and that's the thing, on a map like Team Deathmatch, it is still a pretty fine map to go for this, camping style, even once you do have a lot of map presence coming into play. There are a bunch of these map, barrels here, elevated surfaces. We are seeing Ghost being very quickly there. He is already making the push there, but looks like he will be,
It's going to be a reset.
disconnected.
It's going to be a reset. So for Indian Wolves, again, perhaps a slight connectivity issue. So apologies for that, as they're going to be jumping back into the server shortly here. So we'll restart that. But what we did have a glance at, as you saw, Damage Gaming, they put two players towards the right-hand side of the map and one on the left. And I really didn't notice where the fourth player was at that time, but this does give me an idea that they actually want to do some sort of a pincer movement on their opponent. So they really want to crush their opponent from two sides and sort of put them in no man's land, just in case if, say, for Damage Gaming, the two people on the right-hand side would be eliminated, the flank would come in and pick up the opponents that are on low HP.
Yeah, like that's definitely a possibility. If you do have your players coming in there with a bit of a flank, and you do have your opponents there with the mid push, you can definitely make this pincer movement and get some of those easy eliminations, as that's pretty much how you want to try to approach it.
If you want to do it more epically, though, you can still do the pincer movement, but just make sure that you use explosives.
You do like the
You can
explosives.
call me the demo man, basically, because I just
Demo
love
man
it.
of Guns of Boom right here, folks.
Okay, so a bit of banter, of course, happening as we are waiting for the players to jump back in. If any of you are hungry or in need of a refreshment beverage, perhaps you have, I would say, like 30 seconds or a minute to quickly jump off your seats, grab that tasty drink as well. Right now, the weather is super nice where we are from, and I'm pretty sure it's the same throughout the world. It's a super warm breeze outside, and hopefully that generates a lot of thirst, and you have a nice beverage that you can quench that thirst with. Also, we've talked about how these players use their mobile devices to play this game, and that's also a subject that I wanted to touch again. Let us know perhaps in the chat or in some other way, what way do you think is most beneficial for a player on how they can get the best leverage in terms of perhaps having some sort of a specific phone case, perhaps it's some sort of a screen protector that makes sure that your screen stays as slidey as possible, and of course that grip
You
doesn't
want to
fall
have
short.
the grip. That's the thing. Like, the grip is very important here, especially when you're holding your mobile phone. And obviously, in the Texas Pro Series finals, we actually saw how the players were, before they were prepping up to a match, they did have that, I guess you could call it baby powder. I'm not really sure.
It's the
Flour,
powder
maybe
that
even.
the
white stuff.
weightlifters use, yeah.
Yeah, you're able to, get it on your hands to make sure that your phone sticks there in your hands and you're able to have a lot of grip. With that, it do have a lot of great precision, which is very important in a game like Guns of Boom.
Of course, in order for you to land those perfect aim shots, there needs to be good grip and obviously non-shaky hands, because hey, these are the grand finals, ladies and gentlemen. So yet again, Military Warehouse team deathmatch between Damage Gaming and Indian Wolves, and I will remind you that Damage Gaming did manage to secure that first map on Farming Complex.
Let's get it on, shall we? We are seeing a pretty aggressive push here from the Indian Wolves side as they are making an aggressive play here towards middle. I think they're going to try to shoot some of these opponents through the windows, and we do have Rice here coming in. In fact, those eliminations are working out perfectly here for Damage Gaming. They have the early lead by 30 points.
Okay, Ravi ready now, hiding around the corner, making sure he can wait for his team to respawn. Now Heisenberg in a bit of a pickle here as he is in a gun exchange with Ravi ready. Ghost in the meantime has managed to find Gunner here. Blaze with that G launcher does find Ravi. In the meantime, Ghost with an explosive does return the favor here. So the eliminations are going backwards and forward, and Indian Wolves have managed to cut down that point lead very quickly here. Still 4 minutes and 10 seconds on the clock. Heals are being popped, and speaking of popping, Exorder has managed to find Rice there. So that is a bit of an advantage coming out. And now Heisenberg and Gunner gives the real advantage for his team. 50 points in favor of Damage Gaming altogether now, as Indian Wolves are looking to regroup.
This is looking pretty good right now for Damage Gaming, but you have to be very careful with the pushes they're making there now, because the players, some of them are quite low in HP, and yes, Heisenberg and Blaze will be going down pretty quickly here, and so will Gunner. I'd say if you're the Damage Gaming side, you have to be very careful. Do you want to continue on pushing like that by your lonesome? There's the Trade Blade Master. One of the players get him, and so does Ghost. That's quite peculiar.
Exorder in the meantime on elimination streak, and how does that even work out with the Blade Masters?
I don't know.
It's quite comic. They must have pressed the button at the exact same time. Otherwise, it's just simply impossible. Here in the meantime, though, Gunner and Blaze opening things up yet again, as Ghost does get a bit of a retaliation in the meantime. Ravi ready also found one of his own, but unfortunately it was very quickly taken down. And Exorder super present on this team deathmatch mode. Same as Blaze on the side of Damage Gaming. For Indian Wolves right now, you can see that Hope is back in the lead for his side, as well as Ghost here. So a bit of eliminations going backwards and forwards here. A lot of flank opportunities as well as attempts being made, but really so far it looks like that the shotguns are dealing the bigger damage right now.
Yeah, that's also, I guess, one of the things we could talk about is how the shotguns have been used primarily. A lot of these maps here, I've barely seen any Odins or Incinerator. Well, there's one in the hands of Blaze, sure, but in all fairness, it's been primarily the Avalanches coming into play. Heisenberg, though, he has a good flank there on Ghost. Will find the elimination, and also he chucks out the nade before being eliminated. That is pretty nice.
Okay, so 2 minutes and 10 seconds on the clock here. Only a 10-point lead for Damage Gaming, so they're definitely not in a safe zone right now. Hope is back with this flank, I might say. Might find something here. Actually gets an elimination onto Exorder in the meantime. No, Blaze finds two of his own, and Heisenberg pops in with another elimination of his. So again, Blaze just honestly, no pun intended, but simply on fire right now as he's finding these eliminations left and right.
Oh, there's Heisenberg. You always have to check those corners here in Military Warehouse. Some of these players haven't softened up here quite a bit. Hope will be eliminated. And you have to admit here, but because this seems to be like another map that will go in favor of Damage Gaming.
Yeah, unless Indian Wolves find eliminations right now, they will lose the second map here. So for Damage Gaming, it's very important that Exhorter stays alive here. Actually, Blaze comes in with another double elimination, only 10 points, and as I say that, Gunner manages to get the final elimination here, and that is a very quick 2-0 already. That is in favor of Damage Gaming going up against Indian Wolves. So for Indian Wolves, the next map, which is going to be Wild West Saloon, is going to be do or die, basically, scenario.
Yes, and for good reason, because we are playing a best of 5 here. I mean, the winner will only be declared once he wins the 3 maps, and for now, a team like Damage Gaming, like, they're just 1 map away to secure that grand finals first place spot.
Yeah, and slightly returning backwards, though, so on Military Warehouse, I think one of the reasons why you saw a lot of shotgun action happening is obviously that it favors these close encounters, and just the fact that the middle part of the map is something that you can rotate around quite a lot and quite quickly is also the reason why mostly you see those shotguns in their hands. But of course, again, the G launchers coming out. Blaze was something else on this match from Damage Gaming. He had the double amount of score from anyone else on his team.
Yeah, like, he was looking very solid, and we are going to be taking a look at the MVPs of this map.
I'm pretty sure Blaze is going to be up there, if I'm not mistaken, from Damage Gaming's side.
You're
and
right.
Indeed, 202 points, 14 eliminations, and 7 assists in his hands. And on the other side, we do have Indian Wolves Hope again for the second time here today. 128 points, 8 eliminations, and 4 assists. So for Hope, obviously, right now, not really on the level of Blaze, but it's not to say that we won't see that happening in Wild West Saloon.
Yeah, in Wild West Saloon, we saw another very close matchup happening there in the 3rd and 4th place deciders. So, oh boy, I'm excited to see how this one's going to turn out, because the previous one, yeah.
It was a tight match.
It was a tight match, and to see here, it seemed like Indian Wolves going up against Damage Gaming, it should be quite interesting, as these are 2 titans of the Southeast Asia region.
Yeah, so for Indian Wolves, they're currently behind 125 points behind Damage Gaming. So essentially, if Indian Wolves somehow now do a miraculous reverse sweep and get all the 3 remaining maps, they will get 100 points if they secure that first position, and therefore leaving only 75 for Damage Gaming, which would mean, quick maths, it'll be only a 100-point difference now for Indian Wolves. So they are clinching closer to that first place in the overall standings, and the reason why, Danny, the first place is important, because the winner gets to go to grand finals.
Yes, the winner. Of course, if you end up finishing in the first place finish there in the standings, by the end of the spring season, you will make your way to the Pro Series Finals there in Brazil. And of course, you're going to be meeting up there with a team from Latin America, 2 teams from Europe, and 2 teams from North America.
Yeah, so that's going to be a whole different next level separate event that obviously is going to take a lot of nerves, a lot of courage from these players. And speaking of courage, I do hope it's on the side of Indian Wolves right now, heading into this 3rd match shortly here as the players are preparing themselves. And I'm pretty sure they are currently in a small tactical overtalk about as to how they're going to approach Wild West Saloon. We saw on the first capture point map there that it was quite a hectic scenario for them, actually for either side. So I really have to say that right now, looking at capture point based maps, I do think it's a 50-50 scenario when it comes between these 2.
And especially, on a map like Saloon, one of the things we had to stress about is obviously if you're the team that can actually hold the objective, you can pretty much have a one-sided victory on a map like Saloon. Like, if you're able to have the position right behind the carriage, or even in the Saloon itself, or even on the balcony of the Saloon, like, you have such great angles to eliminate any players who might make a push there on the control point. And what we saw from the previous matchup there, in the 3rd, 4th place decider, Unkilled against Prestigious, we saw that holding Saloon is going to be very important. So if you're a team like, say, the Indian Wolves roster, or even Damage Gaming, you're going to want to acquire Saloon presence as soon as possible.
Yeah, and I think the balcony position is just super overpowered. If you know how to play that position, you can gain so much information. But that is it, ladies and gentlemen. We are jumping into Wild West Saloon here, King of the Hill between Damage Gaming and Indian Wolves. For Indian Wolves, they need to secure the victory here in order for the series to continue. And for Damage Gaming, they just need one more victory here in win this series to crown themselves the kings of Cup number 6, which is this week. But it is going to be a very quick reset here just to make sure that the Indian Wolves can have the proper connectivity they need to have a decent fighting chance in this one. So speaking about that balcony, I mean, it's a great position to chuck explosives off of. If you have the G launcher in your pocket, you have essentially just free reign above your opponents, and you just need to make sure that you have a team member that has your back covered, just making sure that you won't be backstabbed while you're on top of this balcony. And as well, if somebody goes for that capture point, hey, again, you are above them, so you get to get free shots onto your opponent, potentially even get an elimination or two. And if anything, you can always just pull out the shotgun and jump down from it and be like a surprise for your opponent. So there's plenty of ways how you can utilize the balcony, and I'm pretty sure that these team players definitely know how to do that as well.
And that's the thing, in a game like Guns of Boom, you could definitely try to go for those, mano-a-mano engagements, one-on-one there in the middle of open, but you don't necessarily want to be playing like that. Eliminations and devs are a very important factor. You have to take a look to a team's victory and or loss. And if you do have a position there on top of the balcony, that is such a great spot to be actually peeking your opponents. You go in for the jiggle peek, you say do some damage, and then you back away. And you do this constantly, and you can become such a huge nuisance for any team trying to capture the point.
Yeah, you're just basically not allowing your opponents to have enough health to actually even go for that capture point.
Exactly.
And we spoke about this as well for Wild West Saloon. It's obviously super important to control the capture point. It's also very difficult to regain control of that capture point. And again, whoever is in control, I mean, they have all the time in the world to actually even go for extensive pushes if they feel very confident that they can push their opponent into the base, as long as, of course, making sure that they have backup.
Yeah, you can definitely try to go for some of these flanking routes. I don't really recall which member it might have been, but I think it might have been someone from the Unkilled roster. Actually, did try to go for a bit of a wraparound there towards...
Exordus, was it?
I'm not really sure, to be honest, but the thing is, though, like, a map like Saloon, it definitely allows you to try to go for some of these flanking routes, and you might think, as a small map as it might be, those flanking routes can be very powerful and effective.
Yeah, especially already, again, up close shotgun, it deals just insane amounts of damage, and, I mean... One of the more interesting things, though, that just continuously keeps popping back in my mind is in that previous map in Military Warehouse, those trade blade masters. That's I think that's not really that an often occurrence that tends to happen here, because as I already said, you really need to pop the buttons at the same time in order to get like a return-wise blade master. Even more so, you both need to be on the same health. So this actually shows that how close in one-on-one engagements these teams are. So it's only the bigger team play that actually makes some sort of a difference here, in my opinion. Rather than these one-on-one engagements, I think the guys are on the same level.
To some extent, but I would probably argue that, a team like 2 for All-Stars, well, X2 for All-Stars, now known as Damage Gaming, they have, I think, the 4 players there are probably the top 10 like highest rated individuals there throughout the entirety of the 6 series. And now I know what you're gonna say. Actually, and now he's gonna pull out the statistics.
I'm gonna pull out the statistics sheet and actually gonna go over whatever I said, because I just realized that both Heisenberg and Gunnar from Damage Gaming are the leaders in the overall scoreboard in terms of damage dealt, as well as points obtained throughout this spring series. And for the side of Indian Wolves, only Hope is sitting on that 3rd position. So they're not far off, but they're definitely 2 players already from Damage Gaming having that 1st and 2nd position in the overall score gain. Does mean that, yes, they individually have a bit of more leverage on their side, but still, I do think it's a lot of down to the circumstances. And the circumstances are being created by your team. So... I don't know. I'm lost. I'm back to square one on this one. I do think that everyone has a solid fighting chance in this one. It all goes down to how you approach your matches and, of course, having the gunfire.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, in terms of equipment, pretty much all the players are using primarily, when it comes down to rifles, it's the Odins, it's the Incinerators. When it comes down to shotguns, it's the Avalanches. And I think a week prior, I think I might have seen one of the players use a Porcupine, but primarily it's been the Avalanche shotguns, coming into play. And I must admit, though, in this series, and particularly, this today's top 4, I think I've barely seen rifles and sniper rifles coming into play. Primarily, it has been the shotguns.
Well, Hulk did pull out the sniper rifle in Skyscrapers.
Oh yeah, I think it might have pulled
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
Was it Barracuda? I'd like to say.
Yeah, I think so. All right. So, still waiting on the players to jump into the servers, ladies and gentlemen. I do think that I have information about it being shortly here, so don't go too far. But if you are in need of a drink or a beverage, you still have a bit of more time to grab it, as this match is going to determine who is going to win, who is going to move forward, who is going to be crowned as the winner of Cup number 6. Okay, so we are going to be starting soon here. Again, Wild West Saloon, super difficult map to be played, in our opinion, as obviously gives you an opportunity to easily obtain that capture point. But again, recapturing it is a complete nightmare. So King of the Hill, Wild West Saloon here between Damage Gaming and Indian Wolves. Hopefully no more resets, and hopefully a very exciting match here.
Let's get it on, shall we? We do see Damage Gaming already getting themselves control on top of the balcony. That is a very powerful position, but they don't seem to be checking hope there, which is pretty odd right now. And I do believe Rice is going to be getting the capture anytime soon here, and that is a lot of good points here for Indian Wolves, almost leading by 100 points.
And that's very early on here in the match as well. Still, anything can happen as Blaze tries to make something to happen, and in the meantime, Rice puts just a Blade Master into his side there. Now Gunnar on the flank, and also Gunnar coming up with a second one here as well, even looking for that third. The Blade Master now from Ravi ready. Gunnar is in danger here, but Blaze helps him out in the meantime, as now they notice Hope is back, is entering the saloon there, takes down Blaze. Ghost as well gets Gunnar. So now Damage Gaming, even though they're trying to put that point difference down towards the same 50-50 coin side, you can see that them being grouped up is a bit of an issue for Indian Wolves.
We do see Rice. He will be taken out for that very important position here at Saloon. We do still have Ravi here. In fact, the entirety Damage Gaming side has been eliminated. The control point will be going in favor here for Indian Wolves, but don't worry, Damage Gaming, they're back here with a respawn.
Oh, and Exorder gets a very early opening here, as well as Blaze. Now, this is the opportunity for them. Recapture the capture point. They managed to put 2 players on the side of Indian Wolves down here. Now Hope is back, is going to go down as well, and Ghost and gets that triple elimination onto that side. That explosive collateral damage. Jesus, what the... How did they find that gap, that perfect timing there? Ghost on an elimination streak, even gets the shotgun onto Exorder there.
And that's so important. Look at the lead Indian Wolves have right now, not necessarily from having the control point itself, but primarily those eliminations coming in. And now, you see a guy like Ghost, he's saying out 184 score. That is quite a lot.
That's super impressive stuff so early on as well. 2 minutes and 50 seconds on the clock. Damage Gaming back at it again, getting those 3 eliminations, getting that capture point in their favor. Gunnar now with that perfect aim, able to take down Hope is back. 2 minutes and 40 seconds on the clock as Damage Gaming is leading by 50 points here. Blaze on fire again with that shotgun in hand. Ravi Reddy is going to go down onto the capture point, as well as now Hope is back, trying to bring the Hope back to his team.
557 points here by Indian Wolves. They're in a very disadvantageous position, but they are finding the necessary eliminations right now. That is key. And there's Gunnar coming in there with a couple eliminations of his own. Can he find the last one? He sure can. That's now the control point still in favor of Damage Gaming, and Indian Wolves, they're still hot on their heels by 100 points. They're going to try to make sure to minimize the difference.
And look at the change of the approach coming out from Damage Gaming. They actually go for a deep flank and manage to essentially pincer the Indian Wolves players here whilst they're still making their way onto the capture point. Blaze and Gunnar both finding eliminations. Gunnar, that is, finds even a double elimination, as now Heisenberg will take care of Ghost, who was on top of that balcony, and very quickly the point lead has risen on the side of Damage Gaming to almost 250 points.
50 more points here by Damage Gaming, and they will secure the victory here, but we do see Indian Wolves cap the control point, and they're going to be playing this one aggressive. That's how you like to do it. There's no need to be camping out here. You want to try to get in the face of your opponents. They do find one of these eliminations here by X-Hoarder, but Indian Wolves, so far, they're finding a lot of success here.
And Rice on an elimination streak in the meantime, just looking to put these players down on the ground before they jump into the match. But that is it going to be, ladies and gentlemen. Damage Gaming very simply take the victory here. And even though Ghost jumped in with that triple elimination, G launcher explosive on the capture point. It didn't matter for Damage Gaming. Obviously, they were able to come out on top here, and props to them as well, being on the in a situation where you are completely wiped, and it's super difficult for you now to come back into the match. They did so once, and they did so again and again and again throughout the continuation of this match, even though Indian Wolves tried to push into their base at the very end, which is, mind you, a very correct play in that situation, because that's the only way how you can still obtain your points, making sure that the point will not be captured.
Yeah, they definitely tried their best there at the very latter stages here of our match. Indian Wolves won't be able to secure themselves the victory. It will be Damage Gaming coming out on top here with a 3-0 lead. I mean, it does sound decisive, doesn't it? But some of these matches, they were relatively close here.
They were super close today, and I mean, I've seen so many interesting things. I think one of the highlights still for me was Unkilled stealing those few maps off of Prestigious here as well. Of course, now in the grand finals, the Damage Gaming did manage to come out on top, victorious 3-0. And let's have a look at the MVPs again of this match, just to quickly remind our viewers who are the players that you really need to watch out for in the future as well. And currently on the side of Damage Gaming, it was Gunnar sitting at 237 points, 12 eliminations, 8 assists, managing to handle the situation by himself in the middle of the map there for a good while. And of course, on the side of Indian Wolves, Ghost, 248 points, 10 eliminations, 10 assists, and of course having the title there behind him as well as the G-Launch Master, basically, as he did manage to secure himself a very, very juicy triple elimination, which brought things opened things up quite a lot for Indian Wolves.
Yeah, because primarily if it hadn't been for that triple elimination coming in there on the control point, I'm sorry to say, but that possibly could have been an easier victory there for Damage Gaming, surely, because of those eliminations coming in there at the very end. It was still a somewhat close affair, but obviously Damage Gaming did come out on top.
Yeah, so let's have a look at the brackets one more time just to see how this journey went down today, who played against whom, just in case if anyone was joining in only for the finals and didn't get to see this. So the first pair was Damage Gaming going up against Prestigious, where they did manage to secure the victory in an easy fashion of 2-0, even though Prestigious did put up a decent fight.
Yeah, it was a pretty decent fight here between the two teams, but here, Unkilled versus Indian Wolves. This was also our second semifinal of the day, in which Indian Wolves, they did secure the victory here, and it was still, I'd arguably say Unkilled is probably the better opponent here than Indian Wolves, and that victory is a bit more concise.
Okay, this ultimately led us into a battle for the third and fourth place, where Unkilled went up against Prestigious. And it took 4 maps to decide the winner in this one, in that best-of-5 series, where Unkilled managed to secure 3 of those. But as I already said, the latter 2 maps that were played, those were Wild West Saloon and Skyscrapers. That essentially was stolen off the hands of Prestigious by Unkilled in the very last minute or so, completely changing the tide of the game, and also showing why they are sitting a position above a Prestigious. And of course, the grand final, Danny.
The grand final, Damage Gaming up against Indian Wolves. We were hoping for a very exciting match here, and it definitely delivered to some extent, but it probably didn't deliver to its fullest. If it would have been, that would have been a 5-map series.
Okay, so cup number 6 goes in favor of Damage Gaming. Congratulations to them. So, I mean, in terms of points obtained, so Damage Gaming got off the back of this victory 100 points, only 75 for Indian Wolves. So let's have a look at the standings and see what changes and if anything does.
Well, it sure does for Damage Gaming, in the sense that they have now cemented themselves even a more impressive lead than they did have last week, because now the lead is by 150 points.
And I'm pretty sure Damage Gaming's organization is very, very happy about the results here seeing today, as well as Indian Wolves. Well, for them, 75 points obtained. They're still within theoretical grasp of Damage Gaming, but obviously they will have to put in a lot of work for that to change. And more downwards, you can see that Unkilled have solidified their position in the 3rd place. 4th is still in control of Prestigious, and 5th is going to be still in hands of, oh my god, it's J007.
Yeah, and, you know, the standings, they haven't really changed too much after today's games, because we did see, you know, the 3rd place there, it is going to be still the Unkilled roster, 2nd place Indian Wolves, pretty much as it was just the week prior.
Yeah, so obviously a lot is going to ride as well on the how matches are going to play out during our next weeks. I'm pretty sure that all of these teams will have some sort of conclusions to make after today. I definitely have noted a few things for myself as well during these matches, just to see during the next matches if the same issues keep popping up or have the teams actually have made some sort of changes. I really liked how Indian Wolves started today. Unfortunately, it really didn't finish off the way how they were expecting probably, but props to them. I mean, they put up a very decent fight and also a decent attempt in that last match where they went for that final push and it just didn't really work out for them. So, I mean, for us, I must say, first of all, thank you for everyone who tuned in to this Guns of Boom broadcast. Hopefully we brought you plenty of action and hopefully there's more action to come so as well. And, well, Danny, any final words about how this all went down today?
Well, it's been an exciting series here between the teams, but obviously it is still Damage Gaming cementing themselves as the #1 seed here in Southeast Asia region. And yeah, that's going to be it here for our broadcast. Hope you enjoyed it, folks. We will be seeing you next week, so tune in then. But for now, have a good evening and see you all next time.
Bye-bye.